Hello, my name is Dan Hennon. We are doing a Crowley Case Update conference call tonight. Today is April 26th, 2019. And we've got a bunch of topics, a bunch of things to discuss and go over. We've got the chat lines open, and we've got Catherine Michelle on the line, Greg Fernandez Jr., and several others. We'll go around and get some introductions out of the way, but we've got 3 hours here set aside to get ourselves up to date here with the recent things. Catherine, welcome.
Thanks, Dan.
And we got Greg. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. It's another beautiful day in the Bay.
Perfect. And you can see the others that are online. Do we have any other ones that we want to mention, or should we just go forward with anonymous questions?
We do have two other names. If they're okay with that, I'll wait. If they don't mind, us saying their names. Otherwise, yeah, maybe they don't want to be introduced. I don't know.
Well, whatever works, we can get the ball rolling. Like you said, Greg, you've got a 3 hours window set up for this freeconferencecall.com, and
that's right.
It's a good Friday evening to feel free to call in and get on the chat or raise questions or comment on various things. And where would you like to start? Any starting points?
I'd like to start with the video that you just made last night, or put out last night.
Okay, I can start on that, and I'll give the viewers an overview for the listeners if they haven't seen it. It was a fairly quick one. It was 18 or 19 minutes, I believe. It was called The Curious Case of Dan Crowley Sr., and it just goes over his the information that he turned into law enforcement as far as a timeline, and then we matched that up with the actual phone records, and none of those jibe. So the question is, was he lying? Was someone else lying? Or are we missing something? It seems that before we implicate someone with actually lying to police, we'd like to get the full side of the story. So there was a timeline given as far as correspondence to and from David Crowley from his family, and that didn't jibe at all. So just to summarize, I think David Crowley only had 16 text messages being sent and received in that time frame of the month of November. The timeline provided by Dan Crowley Sr. Was all dates given in the month of November. So I just isolated that month of November of the year 2014 and matched them up with the phone records from the AT&T that were responded to in the police warrant for the records. And so we looked through those, and not only wasn't there not a text from Dan Crowley Sr. to David Crowley's phone, there was also not a text, vice versa, from David to his father. So there was no correspondence there at all. But the timeline shows that Dan Crowley Sr. was in communication with David, responding and replying back, having full conversations, and keeping up to date and having a great relationship with the holidays of Thanksgiving coming up and things like that. And none of that turned out to be true. And it also makes interest because we know that David was pulling away from his brother Dan Crowley Jr. I think they had an argument or a fight or something in August, and they were not speaking at this time. And it also appears that he was pulling away from his own father. So this kind of confirms it, but it was an interesting layout as far as the events. And the only question we have is, what was the response back from Apple Valley Police to Dan Crowley Sr. when they noticed these discrepancies? Or was there a response at all? Did the investigators or the detectives, typically they'll do a follow-up on things like this and notice these discrepancies. Some of the comments on my video that I made have suggested that that's a reach. It's a reach to even expect that they do a follow-up like that. So maybe that's our first question or comment for tonight. But is that a normal thing, protocol in an investigation? Is when you get information from a family member, do you just assume that it's correct and true, or do you verify it, or do you back that up to substantiate it? And if they haven't looked into this, then they were being lied to directly to their faces. But what are some of the thoughts on that?
Well, I know when I spoke with my sister, who was a sheriff's deputy for several years, and I asked her that very same question, and she said that absolutely they are to follow up. They don't just take, or should not just take anyone's statement. I don't care who they are, a statement as fact or okay, they're fully telling the truth. They, in order to go the direction that they went, they should have substantiated what was said. And because since we got these phone records from them and the text logs as well, there are only 4 texts from David himself in the month of November. There are 18 or 19 total incoming versus outgoing, but only 4 from David. And like you said, not one text or phone call that came in or went out on Thanksgiving. No, none of his family text. He didn't text them. He never received a text from his dad. And I like how you put it, Dan, because I tend to just be blunt and say, well, okay, this is just a flat lie. And you said, okay, don't say that. You just say that the evidence is not substantiating what they're saying. So it's a little more tactful, and I appreciate that. But yes, they should never have just taken the word of Dan Sr. They should have gone in, and since they had these records, they saw for them, or should have, if they didn't look at it, they should have looked at it, and if they had, they would know that the story that they were told is not true in any way, shape, or form. Somebody either misunderstood what they were supposed to do, or somebody misinterpreted what was said. And why does it always go silent?
I would also say this is the second time, right, that this has happened.
I'm sorry, I'm here.
With the follow-up on Dan Crowley. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so remember this happened when they questioned Dan Crowley about Chris Klein, and he tells cops that he wasn't in the house with Chris Klein on January 19th, 2 days after the bodies were found. Mm-hmm. And the police never follow up on that either. It seems like we have 2 things here, both related to Dan Crowley Sr., that were not followed up on when they clearly should have been.
Yeah. And if they're looking and they're trying to say that David went berserk in December, when his last text that he sends out is supposedly he sent out, which was on November 13th to Kamel's old phone number. That is, according to the phone records that we were given, that was the very last one. And then the last call that David himself made supposedly was November 23rd, I think, or something like that. So in the month of November, David goes completely silent. So why and how is that when he seems to be pretty active in the early months of November, texting quite regularly with a couple of people, and then just to drop off and have nothing? And they, meaning the police, didn't follow up on that.
Yeah, I agree. I was on mute before, but this is Dan again. It's a good point, and Greg brings up the point about the Chris Klein issue at the home when Chris says, I was there, but I was let in by Dan Jr. and Dan Sr. And Dan Sr. heard that and says, I was never in the house with Chris Klein. So we've got unsubstantiated, or we've got things that don't jive. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and here's something else I find interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I see no communication between David and Chris Klein at all. So what was he doing in his house? I mean, there's no phone call to Chris. There's no text to Chris. And these go back, I think, to October. And so obviously they weren't friends. So what was Chris Klein doing in his house to find that elusive bullet that nobody else found before?
The magic bullet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's the other thing with the comments that I've been receiving as far as on that YouTube video that I did was did David Crowley have a secondary phone, and maybe the texting was all done on that secondary line? Well, the answer to that is that he had a mobile phone that was cut off in October by Mr. Alam, and then he got this new one. So this is the only mobile line that he was able to text to and from. He did not have a business account or a secondary line, and this is what came back from the police record. So this is all we can substantiate, that there's no evidence to support more than these 16 texts during the entire month. None was with his family. 2 came in from Dan Jr. That weren't responded to, but we know that they were fighting, so it makes sense. The other thing is maybe they went, maybe the communication was to the mother. And so the question for the new people, lots of new people joining, lots of new members is joining here. Be sure you also go on mute if you're typing in the background. The microphone's very close. The other thing is that for the new members, they were divorced. It was Dan Crowley Sr. was divorced from Kate Crowley, several years in advance. So they were separated. So Dan Crowley was living by himself as the father, and then Kate Crowley was the one who mysteriously wound up dead 7 months after the bodies were discovered herself, which is very, once you start looking into this, the Dan Crowley Sr. side of things, it really gets, it really raises the suspicions to her death, so to say. Dan Crowley was also the one that we still haven't gotten the answers on the $50,000 cash withdrawal that took place in the form of cash at a local Wells Fargo branch location in the month of October, which is a month before these texts were going back and forth, in a month that he was out of the country the entire month on business, or so he tells law enforcement. That withdrawal was taking place out of his account in person by someone. And so we got the Chris Klein mentioning the going into the house with Dan Sr. We've got the $50,000 relates to Dan Sr., whether or not he withdrew it, it was still out of his account. And then we get the long list of timeline of events that he gives to authorities that don't jive at all. I mean, he wasn't off by 1 or 2 or a handful of things that could easily be explained away by a time zone difference or something to that effect. These dates, the text never even took place on those dates that he had said. And the other thing that I was going to bring up here before I let Catherine answer back the last question I believe she was talking about is, I think when they submitted that timeline, Dan Crowley Sr. says that he worked on this with the family. He gathered the timeline with the daughter Allison, the son Dan Sr., and himself all got together to put together and establish this timeline. Now, if it's wrong, and all 3 were involved in creating it, that all leads to other questions as well, because we can't assume that Dan just put this together and sent it on to authorities. I do believe in that paragraph on that page 64 in the police report that says clearly that they worked on this together in a joint effort to put this together.
Yeah,
so I think that's a very strange thing. If knowing what we know now, if they were all, I don't want to say in on it, but none of that stuff was true that was forwarded. So it's very very strange to say the least.
Yeah, I totally agree, and you're correct. I do remember seeing that as well. So it wasn't just Dan Sr., but it was the family it was a joint effort, which then makes me wonder, why would they say this? Were they being misquoted when someone did they write it out, and did somebody not understand what they were saying, and so they typed it wrong, or was it dictated and then it was typed out when they were whatever that type is, they're typing it out. We don't know that for sure, but what we do know is that the timeline that Dan Sr. gave to the police and the comments and statements made by so-called family and friends, I have not found anything to match up with the evidence we've been given. And now that we have the phone records, and we all have been working hard on these, and we've all gone through, and we have every single phone number, and it is attached to a name. We know every person that they called, every person that called them. We know every person that sent a text to, and every person that sent a text to them. And it doesn't match. And why doesn't it match? The police, it's in your face. It's not even something we had to look that far into.
Yeah, and that's part of this information that will be being released or public coming up soon here this weekend, I believe, with the rest of the phone records. My piece was just the Dan Sr. piece that related to those handful of text messages, but what Catherine and Greg and Sophia have been looking into is the phone records from a whole host of people involved with this family the last several months of their lives. And if we go back and trace it back to the comments and quotes that they've made to various media outlets and in press releases as far as contacting them, they do not line up. And so this really begs the bigger question: was it on purpose that they gave this wrong information, or was it just not followed up on? Did the detectives not do their job on the follow-up, or were they lied to from the beginning? Or why is all the lying taken place? With a case like Dan Crowley Sr., he's the father of the alleged criminal here, which is David, and we can't point the finger at him being a suspect in this triple homicide. Would he be a person of interest to that someone would speak to? I would say yes, but certainly relating to the crime or not, regardless if there's any involvement in the crime at all, he would certainly not be telling lies or giving misleading information if he was on the up and up. So that's what we've really got the question for. We do know that the only person in this entire scenario that was finding this whole scenario suspicious, strange, and frankly unbelievable was David's mother, Kate. And she's the one who was found slumped over her table in her backyard patio under strange circumstances. So we got a whole host of things here going on. And what's some more that's coming out here with this other information, Catherine? Some of the other things that I've seen is you get these so-called friends or best friends, but when you look at the phone records, we see these people not in communication with David at all.
Can I go back to the back to Dan Crowley? Two things. I think we need to clear up two things. Okay, first question that I've been hearing is it possible that David Crowley, that we didn't get all of the phone records, that maybe David Crowley had a different phone, other phones or a burner phone, something like that? And is it possible that when Dan Crowley Sr. was talking about he was texting David and all that, is it possible that it was through some messenger on Facebook or Skype or something like that?
No, good question. Good question.
There's calls that that's the only thing that I could really think of why.
Oh, the other thing, just to jump in here, yeah. Catherine mentioned if someone maybe transposed it wrong or during the jotting it down from the notes. It looks to me, and I could be wrong, it looks to me like this timeline narrative was put together and typed and then forwarded to the detectives in the form of an email or something like that. But I don't believe there's any room for someone typing something wrong or incorrectly. The way that the police received it with there were some spelling mistakes and some grammar mistakes and things like that. I think they just copied and pasted that into the police report. So I believe the Crowley family put something together and forwarded it on. So I believe we can rule out any miscommunication or transposing of anything incorrectly. But that's a good point, Greg. If there was other types of communication, messenger, Skype, something else that could have been used as far as communication, all we see is the word response and the word reply. That leads me to believe that they were replying to a conversation, an ongoing conversation that was not on the telephone. And as far as we know, David only had that one mobile phone that was being used.
I'm trying to look up that page because they don't specifically say what phone number either, right? What phone number they call?
Nope.
They just say David's number.
No.
I wanted to find that.
Well, then that's what leads me to believe that it wasn't on Messenger or on Skype, because the verbiage would have been, well, I Skyped, we Skyped, I sent it on Messenger. But to say I sent him a text, the implication is that it was via the phone. So the fact that we infer the fact that it's a phone, it just goes by what he is saying. So
could he text to Skype or something? I don't know. I don't know. That one's weird. Now there was one that he said. So he said he called David on November 7th, right? But then it turned out to be the 8th. Am I incorrect on that?
Who called?
That David Sr. called or texted. That Dan Sr. texted David Crowley on November 7th.
The phone records do not validate any phone call or any text. The phone records we have from Dan at all, none.
So he's not on any of the phone records?
No.
Dan Crowley Sr.
No,
it's possible he had a different number, because there wasn't even any calls, I think, on November 7th. I don't think on the phone record.
Correct.
I could be wrong. I'm looking at that again, but
no, you're correct. I went through every phone number and I looked up every single phone number, as well as a couple of other people. It's been triple checked, and which is good, because what I thought was one person's number, the other two found it to be somebody else. So their search was better. So we have triple checked. We've all got, so we're all in accordance now with the same name and on these numbers, and not one of them belonged to Dan Sr.
And the only troubling thing with that, and I would say it's safe to assume that they were not speaking or were not talking, and David did cut him out of regular communications, and that's fair enough, I think, to say. The question that I have, the troubling thing is that Dan Crowley Sr., the father, went out of his way to tell police that they were in communication. They were responding in what sounded to me like a healthy relationship. But the key word for me is that he went out of his way to plant that seed that the deal fell through. Mm-hmm. I walked away from the deal. Reasons of the heart, I guess, I walked away from the deal. So now it's not only just either misremembering the conversation or planting the seed of saying that I was in a good relationship with my son who did this. He goes out of his way to paint David as the bad guy, that the deal did go through, that he was despondent. He walked away from this deal, and he went out of his way to tell Dan Jr. his new phone number when he got it, but he didn't tell his own father. So it's the planting of the seed of walking away from the deal, which we have also proven and debunked that the deal fell through. The deal, just for the record, the deal never did fall through. We've got that on record with the interview with MEG President Mike Boggio. So the deal was not off the table. And if you look at the texts, David's most recent text, Zach Carter, working with MEG, was one of the persons he was most frequently contacting via text, talking about the production of that deal, of the movie, of the web series, whatever he was working on. So
yeah, there was a lot of communication between David and Zach Carter. A lot, yeah.
Yep. So he was communicating the most, it seemed like, with players from MEG. He was communicating the least with his own family and members of the Gray State team. So we know that he was pulling away from those individuals.
Was that after November 9th? How many times did David Crowley talk with, or was there any communication between David Crowley and Zach Carter after November 9th?
No, in fact, most of David's, Zach sent David a text on December 16th, but it was not replied. Most of David's communications stop on the 8th of November. There is one call on the 13th that at least the phone records, the text records show that David sent a text to Kamel's old phone number, which I found odd. But that was it, no.
Why would he send it to the old phone number?
Yeah, good question.
Do you know what page that's on?
If you look down at the little tags down at the bottom, you'll see David's text log, and then I have it right there at the bottom. Okay. Look on 1113. It's highlighted. Or maybe not on yours. I highlighted it on mine. Sorry.
So I think if people want to really start to dig into these phone records, I'd probably start with what you guys are talking about here, starting on the Apple Valley Police records, page 63 through page 66 or 67, it looks like. That's where this timeline, that you guys are right, because on page 63, the timeline was put together collaboratively and sent to me by email by DJ Crowley. The timeline has been attached below. So there's no indication that after this timeline that anybody has, does any follow-up on it, I guess. You can also look at page 64, and you can see that this is David's newest number, because on November 7th, Dan Sr. writes, I text David to see if he is still alive. If he is still alive on after finding, he gave DJ his new phone number. So that's the new number. So both of them have this number by December 7th. I'm sorry, by November 7th at least. So this is the new number that we're talking about.
Yes.
That's a huge problem. You could still argue, I guess, that I don't know how the pay service phones, where you just get those phones and you just pay as you go. I don't know how those phone records work. But if the authorities could not get a hold or find any, like if let's say I had one of those pay as I go phones, would they show up in phone searches that the cops are looking for, or is that something that would not show up? To me, that would be a big deal, because it could be in somebody else's name. This fact that he says the new number would lead us to think that it was David's last known number. So again, those are just the only things, the only reasoning that I can think of, and it's nothing that can't be clarified, right? If there's no malice or if there's no lies in it. But right now, it like Dan was saying, it does not add up. We're looking at like two different things. We're looking at what Dan Crowley says, and then we're looking at what the phone records say. And police had access to these phone records too. I wonder if they asked these same questions and if they got any answers.
Yeah, because I don't really see the purpose of David having a burner phone. But someone, all it said was guest.
Well, if he's distancing himself from people that are bad news, I could see that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just
that's
guessing.
Beyond me. So.
100%
but I mean, somebody did make one of the guests did say that they said that David spoke with one of his Army buddies on the 24th of December online, but
Eric DePletis?
I'm not sure. They just typed in his buddy, but right now, can we even know at this stage of the game? It's like, how do we even know? If it really was them.
We have to go with what we know, as my friend Walter would always say. And what we know is what is in these reports, right? That's everything. Whatever can be chipped from it, okay, yeah, it can be chipped, but definitely that's where I've been starting. And I think for any new researchers, I would start looking at the 94 pages, and I would start there. Now that I'm going back looking at different phone numbers, who's saying what, it's stories are not lining up. And even in our the news stories, when the story first broke, a lot of those stories didn't line up then. 4
Yeah.
years later, they're making even less sense. So, or stories change. It's like a rewrite. It's like a rewrite to a very bad movie.
It is. And nobody's keeping it straight.
That's the movie.
I know, right?
That's the twist and turn, you know. That's what keeps it going. It's like they wrote a movie just for all of us to look into it, figure out what's really going on here. But
the other thing, if I could just jump in on the timeline, did you say that it was forwarded to police from DJ Dan Jr.?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So if the family did indeed get together, collaborate, and send it off to DJ, and then he was ultimately the one who forwarded it on, that does leave room for him if he was going to edit or change anything and without his family knowing it, and then hit send so it went on its merry way. We can't assume anything like that either. But
True.
The only thing I could say by looking at these dates from November is now think of yourself as the investigator receiving this narrative, this timeline narrative, and look at the warm, fuzzy feeling it has that jumps out at you from the Crowley family. The first line says, DJ texted saying he loves him and wants to make things right. Well, that's kind of a sappy text, but it certainly sheds DJ in a good light.
Right.
And then on November 16th, I asked him to join us at my sister's for Thanksgiving from Dan Sr. Another warm, fuzzy feeling, feel-good kind of a invite to Thanksgiving. We know that that didn't take place, or they weren't there. They never got invited to Thanksgiving, and they wouldn't have gone anyway. But they make sure to point out the good things, but yet anything relating to David is bad or negative or viewed in a very negative light. Even the text here to see if he's still alive. So it's it's very interesting if you were to look back on how this is framed or how this is crafted. Is my only comment there. It's very slanted. The remaining family members that are alive are the good, loving father and the good, loving brother. Is all I'm going to point out there.
Yes.
I would like a forensics or an FBI profiler or someone who would have better insight on reading something like this to get into the mind or the mindset of someone forwarding this kind of information. Is what police are looking for in something like this is a truthful, honest account of what they were sent and what they received and what was going on. And usually those things in actuality aren't slanted this way with as much what I would call emotion beefed up on some of these adjectives and some of these words, or beefing things up to get the to tug at the old heartstrings. That's all I've got to say on that.
Yeah, and I agree. It's like I found that interesting too.
And remember further up, also page 64, is when Dan Sr. makes that allegation that David responded to someone online, never fucked with a veteran combatant. And so we did see that line, we did see that phrase that David wrote on social media that did in fact exist, that Dan Crowley Sr., the father, goes out of his way to say that David was in an argument about Islam, a Muslim article or someone on Islam that got heated, a heated exchange on Facebook. And so I think that's another thing, and I mentioned that I believe it was 3 years ago on one of these broadcasts that I called him out. That certainly was not the case. David did not have a heated exchange on social media, especially about religion. He was very open to all these types of things. And so while I believe he made the comment, we can go back to the fact that it's very strange that the father would jump in and try to portray what caused and try to give the answers to the investigators what caused that comment, which I think was bogus.
Yeah, and we might be giving the father too much credit, I guess, based on this, right? Like you said, if it's all, it's a collaborative effort But some of the things that are in here, like these are just triggers. These are something that would trigger the cop to think that David Crowley is crazy or he's guilty. He's on a downward spiral, all in one page, all on page 64.
Yeah, it's too many key words. It's like someone with a background in intelligence wrote these types of things, and they're trying to, knowing, like Greg, I agree with you, knowing that the common detectives at the city level in the city police department are going to buy these types of phrases hook, line, and sinker. And so that's why they were used. So that means they were used on purpose. Now, if there's a cover-up, does that mean that Dan Crowley Sr. is involved in the cover-up? Could be. It also does not mean to say or suggest that he was involved in the actual murder or murders, directly or indirectly. But it does appear that someone lying with this many number of inconsistencies and this number of lies directly to law enforcement officers is where the antenna should be raised for these investigators, and to Mr. Gummert and to the police chief, police captain, and the various places like the Attorney General that Catherine has sent this case to.
Yeah, and you're right, because if the police, it's very deliberate language, and if the police had just taken even just one of those dates and looked at the phone logs, which they have in their possession, they would have known right then and there it didn't match up. So,
do we know when they got them 215, I believe, right? That's when they were. That's what all the PDFs. That's what they're dated 215.
Yeah.
To make. Okay.
Yeah. So they've had these, over 3 years now.
Yeah, from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, because
76.
Looking at all of this, David and Kamel had a lot of interaction, which is another thing that I found odd, because Allison made the allegation that there was no communication between David and Kamel and David's mom, Kate, when that is, according to these phone records, not true at all. They have a lot of communication, a lot of calls go back and forth, mostly from Kate to Kamel or David, but there's still, 16, 30 phone calls or whatever. And I'm not even sure that includes the texts. I don't know if she actually texted them, but she okay. No text to Kamel. Looking at the logs right now. And no text that I see from the mom, but a lot, at least 26 to 30 phone calls.
Some late at night, too. Very late at night. 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Some back and forth, too. So that, I'm glad you brought that up.
This is Kate? This is Kate,
yeah.
You said? Yeah, she does, for my overview, is that she seemed to be the only one, potentially, that had a genuine concern about the welfare of his family. Yeah, she truly, according to these phone logs, that's right. That's exactly where I go with it. There was a strong connection between her and the two of them.
Donna put something really good in the chat from Eric Depletus, who went by the Forbidden Fetus. You guys see that?
Was that put in there by someone else, or is that the actual person? Oh, that was him from 2 years ago.
Yeah, from 2 years ago, which might have been, now it might have been 4 years or 5. That's from Reddit. And he says, apparently I was the last to talk to my good friend David, and I want to say it was around Thanksgiving, Xmas time, because I remember all those crazy posts he was making about absinthe. Backstory was with David since day one in the Army together. We literally did everything as a team. I love that man. I'll never know a man such as him who was wise beyond his years. It had been about 6 months since we last chatted. So he's saying, what?
Yeah, so he's saying that on Facebook he was talking to David either at Thanksgiving or Christmas time. So, and there's a month difference time in there. So,
okay. And the last time he talked to David was chatted with David was 6 months prior to this. Whenever he chatted with him in Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
and he mentioned absinthe. Why are they mentioning absinthe? Why are we seeing that? We see that in page 64 too. We see that and these become trigger words that a lot of people come into the group and say that, you know what, yeah, David, was guilty because of this and this. It's all the same trigger words. It's all the same script.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think I remember on David's page. Now, correct me if I'm wrong because I've read so much, but I think David did mention something about it, but he wasn't, from what I can tell, all overboard on it. It's not like he was going crazy doing nothing but absinthe.
It was the absinthe while edit was the comment made only one time, I believe, by David on social media ever, and that's another one that the father neatly put into his narrative to give to police.
And see, and that's what kills me.
He cherry-picked that one also.
Yeah, because obviously these people who are making these comments about, David put absinthe while edit, these are people who have never written a book, a script. They've not written a darn thing in life. I'm telling you, don't you know, Greg, right? It is hard to write. And when you sit there and you're like going, if I can just get anything to get me to think. I mean, it's a writer thing. And it doesn't mean the guy was crazy.
No, I think it's more like a painkiller while he's writing. He's using it. I think he has to relive some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of us writers don't have to go through that because we just make it up, or we look at other people and just kind of see how we take real life things and make them our own. But what he was doing is one of the most difficult things that I would think that any soldier, any person who served would be able to actually do, knowing what is coming, knowing the evil that we do face, and all the different, all the stuff that was happening in 2012, when everybody thought that the world was going to end, and the whole Mayan calendar thing. I mean, it was a crazy time, and he was right there. He was caught up with some very bad people. That's what I think. Some very shady people.
And you're right. You brought up a really good point because when I was volunteering as an EMT, on the military base, I am telling you, you constantly live on that. Is the phone call coming today? You're always on that edge. And so I even remember with my kids, I would have a pager and we had a code word. And I'm like, if I call you with this code word, anytime, day or night, if I call you with this code word, go. And then they had a place that we were supposed to meet. And, and David, not only did he know that, but was it still part of it? Because it takes a long time to come down from that type of a mindset. So he was probably still on that mindset, but then he was also all at war, in war. Yeah. He saw people dying. And you're right. So as he's writing about this, it may be cathartic in one aspect, but the other aspect is it's bringing up a lot of emotions. And so if he needed something one time to deal with it as he's editing, I bear the man no ill will. As a writer myself, I'm like, I get it. And I could only try to imagine what he, like you said, what he went through.
Yeah, and it's the point that they're using it not, just a regular recreational use. They're trying to demonize it.
Yeah.
His use. Absinthe is not illegal. And so by repeatedly putting it out there that he used it or abused it, they're trying to demonize it, and it's another form of discrediting David Crowley.
Yes.
Yep, they got the weed out there, got the absinthe in the news media.
Yeah, speaking of the weed, we cannot find anything in either David's or Kamel's phone log. If they're going to say maybe he wrote, used David used Kamel's phone, there is no text or phone call to Chris Peck at that time frame in December, where they supposedly said he called him to say, hey, you got the stuff. There is a text from Chris Peck to David on November 12th. November 12th. I'm sorry, I'm losing yes, November 12th, from Chris Peck to David. No response from David to him, though.
But then you have in the records, in these police records, That was another weird thing, because it's almost like everything is like secondhand, third hand. It's not like the police looked in these records and found something. On page 28 of these records, Detective Tommy Booth is writing that another detective had given him some information that a text message was sent from David Crowley's phone to a phone number which belonged to Chris Peck. The text message was sent at 7:22 a.m. on December 19, 2014. So, where did police get that information?
Yeah, I'd like to know too, because there's nothing here.
And they didn't have the phone records then either.
Yeah.
Because this happened,
that's a good point.
This was on January 19th. So they didn't have those phone records, and this is a very important day too, because this is the day when Chris Klein and a bunch of people, and possibly Chris Peck too, might have been in that house or claimed to be in that house on January 19th. 2 days after the bodies were found, 1 day before the bullet that is going to be tied to Rania was found. I mean, it gets stranger and stranger. These 94 pages should have probably another 94 pages on just all the strange crap that they found that they should have followed up on. That was never followed up on.
Yeah, and the phone records prove that to be not true. How do I say that? Okay, what did you tell me to say? I forgot.
Evidence doesn't support.
Thank you. That's it.
You're politically correct. All right. Okay. All right. Add that to the strange case.
Yeah, these phone records, I am telling you, they're eye-opening. What happened, what didn't happen.
There's some good chat happening that Minnesota member has brought up about Dan Luttrell. That's another one of David's buddies, right? One of his Army buddies. Okay. Sure, right.
Yeah. Okay. So again, these are people who are saying that they're getting these texts from David on a laptop, on a computer. Nobody's actually seeing him or talking to him. So, from where I'm coming from with these phone logs and how he just dropped off so early in the game here, for me, and I know most people don't agree with me, that's perfectly okay, but I am not convinced that it was David talking to them. Oh, poor kitty.
She's in a lot of pain.
Oh,
okay.
She needs love.
She's healing.
Yeah, you're right, Catherine. We don't know who's behind the keyboard here. The hard thing with the Dan Luttrell is that he was communicating, it seems like, over 2 hours, and I think that would be hard to pull off for someone as an imposter, but we can't rule it out. Someone who knew him that well, I think, would have caught on to that. But you're right, some of these shorter messages, some of these shorter texts, shorter conversations could certainly be pulled off by someone else.
Well, if Luttrell was...
Yeah,
and here's the thing, Luttrell admits he was drinking whiskey and beer, so I think he was a little loopy himself.
Yeah, but he also says that there was nothing weird, or that wasn't like David was drunk or acting crazy or anything like that, right? So he's not saying that he notices anything strange from David. No mention of anything like that, right? It's curious, all these soldiers who knew David, that not one of them is coming out and saying that David had PTSD. It's all these people that have never been a soldier, who never walked in those shoes, that seem to be saying that about him.
Yeah, and I forget which one of you guys did a video on that, and people were answering and commenting and saying that, either they have PTSD or they know people with PTSD. PTSD is not something that just pops up one day all of a sudden. which is what they're basically trying to say. Oh, David was, lucid for all these years. After he got out, he could write these scripts and keep everything going. But then, oh man, that month before, all of a sudden he just lost it. Yeah, no, I'm not buying it. Again, everybody goes silent.
Correct.
I'll try not to be.
I agree. This is Dan. I do think that's a stretch.
Yeah. I know I get aggressive. Sorry, I don't mean to.
How dare you?
I know, it's like,
How dare you have an opinion?
And the other thing is this second journal, this alleged second journal that all we keep hearing about from Dan Crowley Sr., which now really makes me hesitant on believing the existence of that at all.
This is the one that was found months later, right? Or after
he got the computer back, he was searching the laptop. Dan Sr. was searching around on David's laptop after he received it back from detectives, and stumbled upon a journal that detectives didn't find, and it had all this really key information.
Okay, because I was
laughable.
I was under the impression that this was a written journal, not a digital.
Yeah, but I still find that hard to believe.
The one that Dan Sr. found was the one on the laptop. Digital.
Where is that? Where does he?
My impression that is when he found it. I think this was from Mason Hendricks.
Okay.
This is not part of the police report, but this is he found all this. He found the quote, stumbled upon all this information, much like Judy Prochnow stumbled upon the page on Valentine's Day of 2015.
Do you have that quote somewhere? Can you grab that quote?
I don't have it. I don't have
you don't
it.
have to do it now.
I could look it, but yeah, I'd like to see that because
I was under the impression that this was a physical journal that was found when the family or whenever everybody was going through the house, and they found it months later, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, okay, if there was something there that would have helped the cops prove that David Crowley was guilty, I think they would have turned that journal over, even if there was.
The neighbor Judy Prochnow has also said that she has photocopies of the handwritten version of the journal as well, many pages upon pages upon pages that she'll never give to us. But what did Gummert say when you asked him directly, Greg?
We got everything
about Judy.
Oh, he said she was lying. Yeah, he didn't. He didn't exactly say that, but yeah, basically he said that. He basically said no, that's not true.
You also think is that an attack dog? I think you asked Gummert about the multiple versions of the diary or whatever the journal, and Gummert wrote back to you and said that's propaganda. None of that exists. That's his direct quote.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
so the other one pushing that once again, just to wrap up, is Dan Senior was pushing this other journal that they found.
See, and I find that hard to believe as well because when we look at those photos from the crime scene and how everything is so messy, most people assume that was because Kamel didn't clean. But the reality is that was the police. They pulled everything out from everywhere. They were pulling clothes out. They were opening drawers. They were moving the bedding on the bed. So they really went through that house. And if anything was there, I'm sure they would have found it.
That's a good point.
I mean, because they went through just about, everything that I could see. I mean,
True.
Which is good. Yes, they leave the place a mess, but you want them to be thorough.
Yes.
But the pictures of the crime scene should be taken in situ and then perhaps taking some photos afterwards. But
yes.
I'm assuming that's what these photos are taken before they rifled through everything.
Well, no, because remember, you were the one who actually pointed it out because most of us are like going, somebody had made a comment about the bed. And then, Dan, you pointed out, you said, in the photo, I think it was with the pot on the dresser, and you said, but look in the mirror, the bed is made. And when you look in the mirror, the room is really neat and tidy. But then when you're looking at the rest of the photos, the bedding's, in a big jumble and clothes are all over the place, but that's not how it looked when they first got there and took that photo of the pot on the dresser.
Yeah, I'm just saying in general. I think most of those photos should be taken in situ.
Yeah, they should, and I don't know why they didn't give those out. Those should be not protected. I mean, they should be just as public as the other photos.
Yeah, I mean, they don't show the bodies or anything.
If they took them. like Dan was saying, like Dan was suggesting, if they took the photos, they should have been given out.
I think they did. I mean, I think they took photo. I think they took video too. I think they have all that stuff.
Yeah. Amazing.
Hi, everybody.
Hey
Are you there, Sophia? Hey, girl.
Just slid on in.
What's going on?
Oh, not much. Trying to catch up. But I am in agreement. I mean, we should be able to see the photos of what the crime scene looks like as they enter. Me personally, I don't need to see the bodies. I just would like to see what the scene looked like. And if they're sitting there moving things, and just for instance, like if you look at the kitchen photos, there's one of the dishwasher open. Mm-hmm. There's a yellow cup where we could see it in several photos, but we don't see it in another photo. So was it removed? Was it there? What's going on here? Or pads of paper and pens? Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I still think it's just from the way that the image was shot, the way that the camera was shot. I still think that.
What? I was getting coffee.
Catherine take a...
I'm sorry, I was getting coffee.
There's a famous yellow cup inside of the dishwasher, and there was a question of if that yellow cup was taken off or moved or, bumped or whatever. Like in some photos, it looks like the yellow cup is there. In other photos, it looks like the yellow cup is not there. It's on the upper level of that dishwasher, and I still think that it is there. It's just the way that camera took the photo. It's hard to see because there is no close-up. There is no clear photo that shows the dishwasher open and the yellow cup is not there.
It's just an interesting thing in regards to as you're looking through the photos, because you will notice that things do move.
Yeah, there's a vacuum that's in the closet, and then in other photos it's not. There's a gun holster that is underneath the bedroom safe, and then all of a sudden it's on the floor, and more pictures are taken of the same holster now on the ground for some reason.
Which was really weird. I didn't understand why they did that at all. I'm like, okay, I know you guys took it out and you're taking photos, but why put it on the floor? It's like, gosh, put it on the bed or something, or on top of the safe.
Maybe that's how thorough they are, and any time anything is actually moved, that they have to take a photo.
Well, and that's good if that's the case. But my point was, why throw it on the floor? Okay, maybe that was their code. If it's on the floor, then
if it's on the floor, then you ignore.
Well, I mean, it's like there's other places they could have put it. They could have put it on the bed. They could have put it on a flat surface, but the floor.
I know, it's so rude. Oh man, I'm trying to find the pictures of the. Oh, here we go. Pictures of the kitchen.
Yeah, you'll get lost on that one.
Well, there's a lot of things you'll get lost on, and
there are. Yeah, especially with
that yellow cup is not in there. On photo number 1. No, it's not.
It's there.
No, it's not. Nope. And then on photo 2, it's there. That is so weird.
Because of the angle. It's the angle.
Nope.
Yes, it is.
Nope. Are you a photographer?
Yes. By
I
trade.
am too.
By
okay,
trade.
me
No,
too.
I'm just kidding.
No, I don't.
But I play one on TV.
That's
so
awesome.
I know.
That's a good one. No, it's not there. That is so weird. Because it's a big yellow cup. Hey, even the wait, no, wait, never mind. That bowl wasn't moved. It's just the angle. Okay, but the yellow cup is not there. But then it's there. It's there. It's gone. It's there. How weird.
It's the weirdest thing, right? It's like, why?
Wow. I know the mystery of the moving cup. That is so bizarre.
And you know, Christy was the one who pointed that one out to me, so I got to give her credit for that one.
Yeah.
There's so many rabbit holes in this case. It's not even funny.
Hey, what's up with we got a good comment in the chat. What's up with let's see, Donna says, what's happening with the active phone? Who's paying for this? Where are we at on that? I mean, I've got some theories. I know you guys got some theories. Are we just kind of jumping the gun by even saying anything, or what do you guys think?
Well, I'm actually going to go back next week. I try not to go on busy days because they're not going to be able to show me anything. But I'm going to go back next week and hopefully get another photo to show that it is active. Because I wasn't able to do that on Friday. But as of right now, I have no idea who's actually paying that phone. And it is for 2 lines. So I don't know. It's a very good question. But it was not active, or it was suspended on that Thursday that we went, and then it was active on Friday when I went.
And then the bill was paid, correct? Yeah, because there was a balance on Thursday.
Paid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a mystery as of right now who's paying it and why they're paying it. I mean,
well, you also have
those.
You have those phones that are you have phones that are forwarding, right? That are in the let me put it like this. If we look at the phone records after the first set of phones were shut off in October of 2014, those 2 phone numbers, right? David's old number and Kamel's old number, do those show up on David's new number or Kamel's new number?
Yes.
Okay.
They do.
So that's a forwarding. Okay. So there is some forwarding going on there. So they still have those.
They're either forwarding or they're calling it to check to see if there are any messages still on those lines. I don't, it's hard to say what they were doing. But yes, there are calls here and there. Yeah, because I used to do that. And that was, maybe that's not what they did at all, but I used to call my old phone to see if there was a message or if it was still active. Who knows?
But this looks like a forwarding, at least with one of them, right? Or are those other numbers?
I'm trying to see which one.
I mean, I had planned on looking at all this stuff before I got on this, and I just had too much going on. This cat is taking over my life.
Oh, poor kitty cat.
I'm so glad she's doing better, though.
Yeah, me too.
That was...
It's all clean.
Yeah, because on the 11th of November, Kamel, at least according to the phone records, is calling her old cell phone number. So I would only assume that that's probably what it was for, to find out if she had any messages or text or anything waiting for her. Not text, but phone messages.
Why would you do that if I don't know.
I mean, who knows? I'm just throwing it out there.
Weren't those phones supposed to be shut off? Or I guess just Mr. Alam shut off the count for the 2 old phones, right? But then David and Kamel probably still had the option to keep those numbers. I also thought it was weird that David's newest number is with T-Mobile, but the other one isn't, but they're on the same count. But that could just be the way they were all working. I don't know if that was when they all merged, if that's when everything started to happen, but AT&T and T-Mobile.
Oh, yeah, I think they bought them out, so yeah.
But that must have been around this time. I think it was like 2012, maybe 2011. So maybe they were still merging, just very late mergers or something. But
yeah, sometimes it takes a while to get it all together.
The other question I had about this last phone record is we're seeing David's number and Kamel's number, and is it possible that maybe this account had other numbers on it too, associated with it?
Well, since they pulled the records of the account number, I'm thinking that if there were other phones associated with the account, it would have been part of the subpoena, and AT&T would have had to supply that.
Even if it's not in their name?
If it's part of the account, it doesn't matter. How are they going to know? Yeah, they're not going to know if it's in their name or not.
Well, because they only asked for those two, for records for those two numbers from David and Kamel. They didn't ask for the whole.
Okay, for the account.
Correct.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if there's anything else. Donna brought up another good one. Donna's got a lot of good stuff tonight. This is one I remember hearing briefly about this. I have no idea about this. Donna says, what about Kamel's phone records and the security prison calling her? FCI Waseco Low Security Federal Correctional Institution. Do you guys know anything about that?
Well, no, and that I don't have the copy of the phone records from her cell phone. Yeah, because I saw that in somebody else, and I said, well, I'm going to look it up and see if I can find it.
You should have
for Kamel, yeah. All I have for Kamel, it stops. Hold on a second. Let me find my paperwork here. I mean, I have the paperwork in my hand, but I thought it went farther back than.
Hey, Donna, can you tell us what date that was?
Well, somebody sent the thing where Caleb's spreadsheet where it has that on there. Yeah. But okay, I have her text messages which go through December 20, or the text messages to and from her phone through December. But the phone log that I have stops November 17th. So I don't know. I would like to see that on the 18th. Yeah, I would like to see that on the 18th log. That would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me locate that for you.
Let me, hold on. Yeah. Hold on a second. Let me go back. Oh, no, I lied. I'm sorry. No, that's David. Okay, maybe I didn't. That's good. I don't want to be a liar. Okay.
I'm looking at that too.
Because I do remember you mentioning that you didn't have that sheet.
Wait, no, you're right.
What be happening?
No, you're correct. You're correct, Sophia. I didn't have it the first time, but now, okay, that on the phone records that I see, I don't see anything from a prison at all.
What month was that? I'm not.
They said. Well, of course, that's because they said that it was on January 19th. The phone records I have stop at January 15th. So I'm not sure where Caleb got the phone record through the 19th for Kamel or David. I don't have, like I said, the phone records I have for Kamel stop January 15th.
I'm going to look at that. So I thought they went further.
Yeah, and the only people calling her were the school and Heidi, I think.
See, so that would be Kamel's last phone number. Okay, the 0072.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 30-page document. And, okay, no, it couldn't be that one. No, I got this wrong. Can't be the last one. Huh.
But yeah, so do you have?
No, there's another one. No, we're missing something. Hold on.
Yeah, I was seeing Sophia. Yeah. Does Sophia have? Do you have the phone log for anything after the 15th of January, or does the one you have end on the 15th?
Mine ends on the 15th also. I just pulled it up.
Which note? Is that for the 5794 or the other one?
The 0072?
0072?
Yes, the 0072. Greg, is it possible to send me your link to your blog? I'm going to check your blog.
Yeah.
The phone numbers on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just updated it a
I had
little
an
bit.
issue with things disappearing out of my files.
Yes, me too. Frustrating.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So page 1 through 27 of the 30-page document is her phone,
Phone
and then
record.
page 28 down is
the text. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I thought I was going crazy.
Well, that still may be.
That's a relative term around here.
Understandable.
Are you in the chat too, Sophia? I'm going to put it there if you are.
No, I'm not.
You're not? Okay. I'll send
Would
it.
you be willing to send it to me through Messenger?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, the phone records, I mean, it's just like I am just trying to wrap my head around it because there's just so much to it. Really, it's so much that it's just like, well, wait a minute, this is missing, that's missing. I was hoping to get somebody who actually works there, who works at AT&T, and to kind of help us understand this. The person was kind of taking me through it, and we were going back and forth a little bit. But I was hoping they could maybe jump on and help explain some of these things that we're seeing here. And I do think we will end up getting somebody on here for that if it's necessary, if it's needed. And I think for me at this point, it's just, as long as we document all of this stuff, what the calls are. I think what a lot of people are having trouble with is who the calls are to and who the calls are from. So, yeah,
and that was pretty eye-opening. I'm telling you, we're still searching.
Here's something interesting.
What would that be?
Well, this might just be a Caleb thing, though. I noticed in his spreadsheet. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's no. Okay, never mind. The January 18th, 2015. That was a big one that really stuck out to me. I need to see if that is true. But you guys are saying there's no calls on the 18th.
And that's why I would like to know where Caleb got this information from, because he doesn't even have any calls on his spreadsheet for the 15th at all, but yet I do on the actual phone record. So I'm not sure where he got that information from, but maybe if he's still around, if he could pass that on, that would be awesome. Yeah, because I show phone calls. Well, he has 2 on the 13th, and I show one. I show 2 on the 13th, but I also have calls on the 14th and the 15th, and he doesn't have that on his list. But then his picks up on the 18th through the 21st, and I don't see that at all.
I don't either. If you look on the 4890, David's last known number, down on page 8, it does have things happening on the 17th, but nothing like that. No infidelity.
Right.
Thing, which to me really stuck out, and I started looking at it, and then like, wait a minute, where is this record? Where is this phone record? And I think that's why it's important to have as many people as possible going through these phone records, because as many good people, as many real researchers, people that are really going to research this and aren't just going to use it for themselves.
And that's why I feel real solid with the spreadsheet that I've sent all of you guys right now, because not only has Sophia double-checked it, but then another person has been double-checking it as well and caught, some other information. And but so far, what they find is what I find. So I'm real confident that these numbers match up with these names, and these people were in that area at that time. So
well, maybe we should go through some of these things. What are some of the things that kind of stand out to you? I'm just opening it up right now. Teachers on call. That was a weird one because what does that mean? Teachers on call.
Well, when I looked that up, the teachers on call, it was roughly this. It was the same place where Heidi worked.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it probably was her either calling or Kamel was there and to call through that phone or what.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's see
Her
what
old
else.
phone number, there are calls the 19th, the 18th.
Where are you seeing that?
They show up on
The 072?
The records that, no, her other phone number, the 214-470-5794.
Okay, that's the big 412
page number.
Sure.
I don't have those phone records.
Yes, you do.
That's why I asked for the...
No, Greg, all I have is the 0072, I swear. That's all.
You should have 4 phone records.
Well, you sent me a lot of files, but they were duplicates.
Okay.
And, because
You're in the chat, right? You're in the chat right now? Okay,
yes.
I'm going to send you this. This has everything. This has all 4 of them.
Yeah, because I printed off everything, but not the duplicates. I double-checked.
And look, starting at page 342. That way you can see exactly what I'm seeing.
342 of the 5794. Okay.
Okay, now where am I looking at on this, Greg?
You're going to scroll down to the very, very bottom, and you're going to see phone. Oh, yeah, I probably should explain that. You're going to see a phone record section. It's the very last thing. Come on.
Be smart. I'm not smart. Okay, I think I found it now.
I'm also sending it to you.
Oh, great, thanks.
Through email.
Okay.
Oh man, I have more to type out. You guys are not funny.
It's all part of our plan.
I know. No.
Okay, so I'm going 115.
And what date was that? The 19th or the 18th?
For which one?
He said
for the
prison record.
The prison.
Yeah, the prison one. Thank you.
That was supposedly the 19th. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to run that number to double check.
Okay, that'd be great. But see, that doesn't, people calling from a prison, they do stuff like that all the time. And it doesn't.
That's true, they do.
Yeah, so I mean, it could have just been somebody who was watching the news and said, "Hey, I'm going to call this phone number." These guys get bored a lot. Okay, I am way into the voice messages. Get back up here.
Well, they have a list that they're allowed to call from. It has to be. They just can't pick a random number. It has to be approved. At least that's my understanding. They have to put it down.
It really depends on the state. Every state is different. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at...
Where are you seeing 118? On the 412 pager, I'm not seeing anything for 2015.
Page 342?
342.
Could I please have the number that we're trying to see, trying to double check?
Say it again?
The facility phone number, please.
That number is... Was that for David? No, that's Kamel. Michael Murray. I don't see it.
Okay, at 317. Yeah, I'm trying to find it too. And okay, the only number I see here on her record at 317 on the 19th, the number is 1-507-835-8972. That is the only call. 8972.
8972.
Okay, I see it here.
1-507-8.
So on page 342.
I have a Blenden, an L Blenden.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up in the thing I use and see what it comes up with.
Corporation Century Link. Was there a Peterson connected to this case? It seems very familiar.
Peterson? Not that I know of.
Okay, and I come up with a totally different name. Amanda Rhyme. Yeah, so I don't think it was a prison at all.
Do you have the number, or what's the number?
Another one of those. 507-835-8972.
That's on 119 at 317.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For 0 seconds.
He could have just, when he was checking out phone numbers, could have either transposed a number or something, because that, by that point he was probably really tired,
Well, that number isn't, the number he's calling, or whoever is calling, is not, technically it's not active, right?
Yeah, everything is 0, 0, 0, seizure time 0, estimated time 0. But yeah, it's like calling a dead line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, except for one is 13 seconds. No, it took 13 seconds to connect, but no time is recorded for any of these calls. So
now, when I went to AT&T and I showed the gentleman who was helping me this little bit of information, he immediately asked, "Was the phone dead?
Yeah.
Did the battery die?" And I was like, "It's very possible. They were sitting on counters and dressers."
So did they still have physical possession of their old phones? Or did they still have their same phones and get new numbers?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Well, the phone companies are always pushing you to get new phones when you go in.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure on that one.
And their phones are newer. It's an iPhone 4, which back in 2014.
Did we lose Dan?
Yeah, he had to drop off for a little while. I'm trying to see what iPhone was out in So in 2014, the newest iPhone would have been the 6, and they were on the 4, so they were behind.
But they probably just transferred over to AT&T, got the SIM card and put it in.
Well, I also think that was when the 4 had like unlimited plan or something like that. Depending on, that wouldn't have been for, I don't know if that would have been true for T-Mobile or AT&T, But where I have my service, that was definitely true, and that's why many people weren't changing their phones, because with the upgrade, that was the one downfall, is their plan changed too, and their data plan, all that stuff. But if you kept your old phone, then you didn't have to worry about that. Oh, that's interesting. Curious stuff here. We do have 11 people that are joining us, listening in right now. If anybody else wants to jump in or say anything, or wants to change the topic, or if you have a topic you'd like to share, please do. So we can probably spend a few years on these phone records at this point. Is what it looks like. So this is what you got to do. I mean, going through those photos was not that bad. Actually, going back, I'm like, the photos were like the easiest thing. The records, all of the data, that's when everything started getting a little more tricky. And then now with these records, with the financial records and the phone records, I think are the two most tedious things. But I think they're the last two missing pieces that really haven't been thoroughly gone through yet. And at least not by us.
There's been a lot of questions.
Yeah, it is.
And the big one for me is, why did David and Kamel drop off so early? November. There was one call or two calls from maybe Kamel in December, but I'm not even. Again, I'm not sure it was even them. Did somebody have their phone and make a phone call so their name would show up? I don't know, but still, they just dropped off. All of a sudden, you see where they had a lot of phone texting and calls going on, and their history of making phone calls is quite extensive. Then you get to November, December, nothing, hardly at all, except for David's mom.
And I'd be curious to see how that relates to social media. Was it less phone and more social media? Less phone, more emails? Because remember, they have all of that stuff too, right? Because we have, or were the email records and all that from the other side? I mean, they should have it. They had all of the social media activity because they knew when the social media activity was over. They claim that it ended, I believe, on December 26, 2014, which is why that's the date that they kind of speculate that everybody was dead by that time, based on the last known social media activity. So they have all that.
Yeah, but again, they're just making assumptions.
Yeah, and when you look at the police reports, they add text messages, they add emails and Facebook posts. Where's the rest of it?
It's just all kind of
Do
thrown.
they only pick and
I don't know. It's all thrown together is what it looks like. Yeah, so that was weird. Some of these phone records, I still think that, there's just a lot more that needs to be looked into. You have, I don't understand. I really don't understand some of these records here. But see, you have the neighbors, right? So you have, what's her name? Tuppy?
Yeah, is it Tuppy or Tuppy or what?
Tuppy?
I'd hate to say her name. I always butcher people's names.
Tuppy just sounds nicer. It sounds better.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, now watch it be Tuppy and she'll say, excuse me?
Tuppy.
I don't know.
That's just two letters, Two letters. It's a PP. I don't know.
Because see, Tuppy, but yeah, I don't know. Two P's, one P, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a British tuppence. Is what it reminded me. So. But she's the one who called David, and what's interesting is she called the 0461 number, right? The 0461 is David's old number, so she didn't have David's new number when she called David after Colin Prochnow came over to Tuppy's house on January 17th. After Colin saw the bodies, they were still trying to get a hold of David, which shows me that they were not certain that the three bodies that they were seeing were David, Kamel, and Rania. that's what they should be doing. If they were certain, if Colin was certain that this was them, I don't know if he would have had Tuppy call and have them call David and see if David answered. Why would they need to do that if he's already there? Now, if the bodies were in such a state that Colin and Judy could not identify them, then they shouldn't have even said anything about it being, David or being whoever. Not to mention the whole suicide thing, the gun, the dog, all that stuff. So.
Yeah, that's still.
But I think the point with Tuppy is that she called his old number. And is there a record of that?
Well, that's why I'm looking on David's old phone right now on the records, and it's taking a while.
It wouldn't show.
A lot of information.
It wouldn't show on his old records, though, right? Because his old records end.
Well, that's why I'm checking, because Kamel's old phone was showing people
Correct.
calling her in January, so I'm trying to see if David's was the same thing. But the pages are sideways. They didn't do you any favors, did they?
No. Trying to make you crazy is what they're trying to do.
I know, it's like, okay, I'll keep looking sideways. Kink my neck.
Yeah,
so
I think one day I'm gonna figure out how to switch all that out. But I think because that's a 740-page document that you're looking at sideways. Unless you have a laptop that you can just turn your laptop over,
there you go.
flip it on the side. Hopefully, it's not like a new one that'll flip with you, and you'll be all right.
So funny.
You got the old ones there. You're fine.
And it's like I keep going. I swear, I try to scroll down, and then I'm like going, okay, am I still in the phone records, or am I in the text section now? I don't know.
Well, it's different. It's weird because it jumps from on page 260 to 57. It looks like you were in November of 2014, and then all of a sudden we're back in January of 2014. Things like that are just kind of odd, I guess. Just not very helpful. Very helpful stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
because I think I went too far, and now I'm in the text, but. Getting close.
I'm at 264 right now, and all of a sudden, 263 is October 2014. Then all of a sudden, I'm in October. I'm in January. So that these must be maybe the text records. Then is that what I'm looking at here?
I'm trying to get there. Come on.
And even if they are, then by that I should be able to scroll down to the bottom of this huge 740-page document.
Yeah, because the phone calls stop. October 28th, 2014, and then it starts up with the text messaging. So she didn't call the old number. If she did, AT&T did not give that information.
Even though they got these other ones from Kamel's old phone number, which was tied to her old phone record.
Correct.
And this is just nuts. We need to hire somebody just to go through all this. I mean, the thing is, it's not like we're doing this 24/7. We are human beings who do have families, who do have lives and stuff, and do have responsibilities. Food still got to get put on our table. You know what I mean? So going through this is tedious. It's been very tedious. And once again, you're looking at page 490.
Yeah, and his text messages stop on October 24th as well. So there's nothing on David's old phone number for January of 2015.
Well, if you're looking at page 494 of the big 470 pager, it's like on the same page it goes from 1020, and then all of us 1021, 1024, and then all of a sudden it goes back, and this is 1029 2014, and the next one is 101 2014.
Yeah, so that again is going back between the phone records versus the text messages. You're looking at the sheets that are like nothing but numbers, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's the same information as what's
it's exactly
on the other, but just in a different format.
So I can see it.
Yeah, so I don't
correctly.
even look at this part right down here because it's just nothing but numbers and it's too confusing. So I just stick with the itemized log statement.
Okay. And then so if I scroll all the way down there, it should take me to 10.
Because it should be exactly the same information that is up above.
Right. And everything ends at 10:24.
24. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what number she called.
Well, again, she might have called it, right? But it's not.
They didn't include it. There you go.
It's not showing up here. And that would be the only thing. What's page 740? What is that? What am I looking at here?
That's the last page. Let me go down there.
Vista Insurance? What is this all about? That looks weird. In Hewitt, Texas? Chambers, 801 Chambers Creek. What is that?
It could be that, was that something her dad was associated with?
Oh, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. All right. Interesting. Very good to know. Because at some point, Kamel's sister and Kamel's father are in communication with Kamel. So those are some of the other records that were very important. I mean, it shouldn't be difficult. Hey.
This is Pansy.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
Well, I hope y'all have eaten because I haven't.
Well, you should.
I've been waiting, and I finally got online with y'all. So
awesome.
I was wondering, did they have any incoming calls during this time that they were supposed to be dead?
Anybody calls to them?
Get in touch with them?
Yes, they did. They had a lot, yeah.
They did.
Yes, but none of them that looked like they were ever answered, but there were several phone calls made to both of their lines. Yes.
There's like a weird forwarding going on with David's last number.
Yeah. Both David and Camille's phone number is being forwarded through someone else's phone. And we're still doing more research on that. And we have the name of the person and their phone number and everything, but we need to double check and make sure that it wasn't someone else. How did you guys word it? Sophia, help. Sophia, is she there? Did she leave?
I don't know. She might have. No, she's here.
Okay, maybe she stepped away. What was it that you and Sophia were describing it as?
Like they had the same, somebody else had the number? Is that what you're talking about? Or,
yeah, maybe what do they call it, like mirroring or ghosting their phone or something? We need to make sure that it really was them and it wasn't someone else using their phone.
Oh, fraud.
Number.
We're talking about fraud.
Yes, thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which seems common, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, my daughter used to do that all the time. They had a business, and she didn't want to miss any phone calls, so she'd have it, her calls transferred to another phone, to wherever she was going to be at. So,
yeah, it would have to be active, right? I mean, both of her phones were on the same account number, correct? Or no?
Yeah, I think
so.
One went from their cell phone to their home phone.
Okay.
Landline.
Their landline.
Did they ever forward their phone to, like, say, to a friend's phone line?
Yeah, I'm sure you can do that. It's just whatever you want to forward that phone number to.
Yeah, because this particular person shows up both on David's and Camel's phone line, and the number is constantly forwarded to or routed through this other person's phone number. And again, once we get clarification that it truly did belong to this person, we all will be divulging the name. and explaining a little bit more. But until then, I don't want to throw somebody under the bus if they're innocent.
Well, it could be that somebody was keeping track of their phone calls.
Yes, that too.
Uh-huh.
But would that show up on the AT&T phone records for David and Crowley?
Well, I don't know. Now I don't know about that.
I don't either. I got plenty of questions, no answers.
Like if I throw my number to like my neighbor's phone number to get my calls through her phone, whose line would it show up on? Whose bill would it show up on?
Whose bill would it show up?
Our record.
Right. And I wonder if that's why they had a little difficulty getting some of the phone records, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe and maybe the phone records that we got or that the cops got, maybe that's not just what David and Kamel would even have access to.
Yeah.
I don't know how all that works, but I'm definitely going to learn. I'm definitely going to figure it out. And somebody's going to figure it out, and they're going to help me understand.
Well, I'm going to ask my daughter how she went about all that and how.
That would be great because now there is software. Like there is software that I can forward my number to anybody's number, and they wouldn't even know it.
Right. Yeah, I'll sure find out about that.
Anything else on your mind? What else have you been looking at here regarding this case?
Everything.
You're going straight down the rabbit hole, head first?
And then I go back and go over it again.
That's right. I'm doing the same thing. I've been doing this for 4 years, and that's all I do. I'm looking at right now. I'm going back through the first records that I ever got, through all of my notes, through everything. It's interesting.
Well, see, I'm not so sure that I wasn't. Well, I think I remember when all this happened. Back in 2014, because I was really getting into the kind of stuff he was into. I'm one of those nuts that likes that kind of stuff, and I like to be smart about things, about what's going on in the world and all that. And I think I remember back when that happened, or when they, found their bodies and all that, because he looked so familiar to me. But I don't know, it just really hit my heart, and I've been in on it ever since I happened up on this about a year ago. And I just can't get enough of it because it's so mystifying and horrific.
Yeah, especially when there's a child involved.
Yeah, somebody needs to find out something about, or somebody needs to come forward, because it's just too terrible.
It is. Now, I'm hoping that the private investigator is going to help steer us into the light here.
I hope he can come up with something we haven't seen.
Me too. Or at least something that we can do. Give us some things that we can do. So, but I think right now it's just very important to just let the private investigator do their work, not to be a part of it, not to, I'm trying to stay out of it. I don't want to know. I don't know. I just want to know once it's done, I just want to see everything. That's all.
Right.
And I think many people do too. So.
Yeah.
And the question is, I guess, how long are we going to wait? I think a lot of people were head in, and I think a lot of people who have done a lot of great things for the group and for this case, they get burnt out and they leave. They get fed up. They get cyberbullied. I've had one person who she was a teacher, or she is a teacher or something like that. some of the haters found out where she worked, called her boss, blah, blah, blah. It was a big stink. Things like that do happen. Many things like that do happen when people start looking at this case. I think it's kind of died down. I hope it's died down a little bit now, because now that there's so many more people looking at it, it's really getting hard for them to just to discount everything that we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I get into a lot of things, but I get worried about my well-being too, because I speak my mind.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's a good trait.
That's a what?
It's a good trait to have.
Well, I don't know.
It is.
Come on, I'm trying to say it's okay because it's what I do.
she's trying to rationalize her.
Yes, I'm rationalizing.
Well, Catherine, the first time I heard, I saw your videos on there. I really enjoyed listening to you, because you really put your mind to it, and I really like the way you lay things out. I really do.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I wish that I could have been a private investigator.
Yeah, I had to learn.
I'm 75 years old. I wish I could have been a lot of things.
Hey, it's never too late.
Never too late. Never too late.
Well,
you can start right now.
Yeah, I had to learn how to investigate things the hard way. So I'm very good at it. In fact, my last job, it was funny. It was a trait that they didn't realize that I brought to the table. One day I was going through records and searching things like I do, and I found something I wasn't supposed to find, and sent some correspondence to somebody that I wasn't supposed to know existed. And next thing I know, my boss is coming in my office going, how did you know about this? And I'm like, oh, I found them, buried deep in the system. And they're like, he's like, show me. So I'm like, okay, here. So go. And he's like, delete that and forget you saw it. I'm like, oh, okay. So yes, I tend to find things out. It's funny when people say things and make up stories. Yeah, it may take a while, but we'll find it. I'm telling you. And Sophia has been a godsend lately. Oh my gosh, that girl has worked her butt off, and she has really gotten things rolling.
Well, I talk to my children, and I got one daughter. She's real smart, but she gets telling me, "Mama, you can't believe all that stuff you're watching on YouTube and Facebook and all that." I said, "Well, I don't just sit down and believe it. I investigate it."
Exactly. That's right.
And I know everything.
Yes. Unfortunately, most of what you see is true.
Yeah.
And most people don't want to accept it. Yeah.
I don't think she gets on YouTube very much. So, well, she's one of these types of persons that likes to close her eyes and ears and don't want to hear that bad stuff. I said, well, that's life,
Yeah.
And that seems like that.
Not everybody can handle.
Yeah, no. That's true. And that seems like what a lot of people want done with this case. They want us just to close our eyes and forget what we see, but it's too late. They cannot unring that bell for me. It's been done.
Took the red pill.
That's right.
Yeah. So I will keep going, and we will keep going until we get this answer. I feel we're pretty close.
I do too.
Yeah, but what can we do about it?
There you go. Good question. And even if they won't let us do anything, it will still be put out there. It may not change the outcome, but at least everybody's going to know the truth.
Yeah.
What it was all about.
Yes.
Yes, and that's one of the good things that we're doing now is talking about this, keeping this case going. There was a long time where I felt very desperate to do anything. That's why I started making videos on this case, because I was desperate to keep this case going, because I knew what was going to happen. This case was going to get buried like every other case out there, like just so many other cases, and I was determined not to let that happen, and I'm still determined not to let that happen. Whether David Crowley is guilty or whether he's not, I'm determined to do whatever I can to really help us find out that answer. But there were months where I just knew this was fading and nobody's looking at it. The alternative media has moved on. They found their new story. Everybody moved on, and I just felt like I couldn't move on. And so it's so great to see so many people looking into this, not looking into this from my view, but looking into this, taking what they know, taking their past, looking at all these documents. And it was very important to give people the documents themselves and have them read it themselves, not to hide it and not to tell people what they should think or what they shouldn't think. And I think the more that we give people everything, the more we're all going to come to the same conclusion that there's just nothing here that proves David Crowley guilty, period.
I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
Yeah, neither do I. There's something else that happened here, and we will find it. I think we found a lot already.
Yeah. Donna's been asking some good questions here. She wanted to know if there's anything new with the petition, the detective, I think she means the PI maybe?
Yeah.
And the script that will expire in June of 2019. That script will no longer be in the WGA. And that's a big deal. For me, that's a big deal, because I remember when I expired my screenplay, and that was painful. It was painful, and I mean, it's just about paying for it, really. That's all it is. So I'd be curious to see if, like David's phone records, if all of a sudden that WGA Writers Guild writers thing is also paid for another 20 years, another 10 years. I'll be very curious to see what type of moves they're going to make.
And the thing is that people are confusing the expiration date on something that he has with a guild, which is different than a copyright. You cannot confuse the two. The copyright will remain unless David wrote specifically in a will that his work would then be given to somebody else. That work remains his. It is not the same.
Yeah, but there is a problem, though, because you have other people who do have credit. The problem that Danny Mason has is that he told the cops that he was not a part of the project except for being in the script, in the trailer, right? He made it seem like he was just an actor. And now it's going to be hard for him to go back and say, no, I wasn't, because he told the police that.
Exactly. And the script that is registered with the Writers Guild in Hollywood only has David's name.
But that's probably an older script, yes. But that's probably...
that doesn't matter. Script. And that doesn't matter. The fact still remains that
no, you're right.
It is written in David's name. It is copyrighted in David's name.
But this is Hollywood. We're talking about Hollywood, remember. And lawyers, all you need, and this is California, all you need is a good lawyer. Danny Mason, I think if this police record, if he wouldn't have said that, he would have a very, very strong case for it, because he did make this story. I think he was a big part of it. So why he backed away from it and then tried to take it on his own is very, very strange to me. So anyways, I'm just ranting on.
No, that's okay. For me and the way I see it, it's like I think it was David's idea, which David started. David's the one who did the writing. He did the work. But the fact that don't be writing stuff like that when I'm talking. I lost my train of thought. Okay, it's one thing.
Did my plan work?
It did. It worked. But just because someone has an idea, and then say you and I were talking about flowers on the road. And you're like, hey, Catherine, I have this great story about this flower that turns into a werewolf, and then at night it eats all the other puppies in the neighborhood. And then you start writing about that. And then I come in and I'm like going, oh, wait, Greg, I have this great idea. Make sure that the werewolf has purple fur. Well, so you incorporate purple fur into your story does not mean that I now am. I can take claim to your story.
Okay.
It just means that, I just we threw something out, but it's still not my story. It's your story.
But then let's say we both turn that story into a trailer, and we have a third person, and we're all partners. At some point, David goes to Danny Mason and to Mitch Heil and has to have them sign this form. If they don't sign this form, to me, the fact that David knew that shows me that there was some concern that if Danny Mason and Mitch Heil didn't sign these forms, these waivers, whatever they are, that they would still have some rights, that David knew that he would have a big court battle, and that would also make the whole project, the project would be dead then, because then everybody's going to be like, oh, how come you guys are fighting over this project? It's just, this is not supposed to be about you guys. It's supposed to be about warning people about what is coming.
And again, I think that's where Danny August Mason got his wires mixed up. Because they were requesting that form to be signed means nothing. It just simply means that I had to do the same thing when I wrote my book. And all it does is it keeps other people from trying to lay claim later on. Does not mean that they actually have legal claim, but it's a legal document where it states they have. It's one of those fine lines. And David could have easily won in a court of law. Easy. Because it's a standard form. Yes, it happens all the time. I had a friend of mine who wrote a script for Hollywood. And the movie was never made. He had backers, but then they all backed out. And this was back in the 80s, right after I had my daughter, before I had my daughter. And so he's like, here, look at the script, and can you write out your critique? Well, I wrote out this big critique and everything, and he took it to Hollywood. And and the main thing was I think I was 19 at the time or something. They're like, was this written by a 19-year-old? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, wow. But because I critiqued that and gave it ideas on how to fix it, and he incorporated those changes, I had no claim to his script at all. None. So, and that's, people tend to think that just because they give an idea, now all of a sudden they're co-owners, but they're not co-owners. So you have to go in and just say, okay, you're here. I need you, even though you were part of this and you helped with, say some costumes or maybe a place of where they should film something, or maybe even part of the filming. You look at it the same way, like in Hollywood, everybody who takes part in a movie does not own part of that movie. And there are times when the actors will say, you know what, I don't like that line. I'm not going to say that line. I'm going to say it this way. So they change the lines, but they do not then at that point own part of that script. It's just a change. So I think
you have the other problem might be that, remember, we're talking about two separate things here too, right? Because if you look at that contract between David and Meg, they did not have the rights to any of the social media, to anything that had already been done, right? That was all David's. Anything. That's why the Gray State team could have moved forward with a documentary. Maybe David was trying to just kind of give them that to kind of make them all happy or something. I don't know. But I still think Danny Mason, knowing what type of connections he has, could have probably made a pretty strong case. And the bigger thing is that he could have basically killed it to where, let's say David did sell it. Let's say they all sold it to some place, and then all of a sudden Danny Mason comes in. Well, that's a liability to the people that are putting up money, and they're just like, why would they deal with this when they have 20 other offers? When they have 20 other projects, they're not going to waste their time on a project that might be held up in court. Even if David won, it's still kind of tainted, and the subject matter is, that's already going to be a tough sell. You're going to have people fighting over that for at least a year. It's just like Danny Mason could have held them up in court, basically, I guess is what I've been trying to say for 20 minutes.
And see, that's what I think Danny thought he could do, which is why he was dragging his feet, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But in reality, when you look at that documentation of registration, the Writers Guild of America, it only has David's name on Gray State. Now, The Rise, maybe he worked with him and then he could be a co-writer on The Rise, which was only one section, which was basically going to be the promotion for Gray State. And so that could be where David's like going, hey, you need to sign this because maybe you were part owner on this one, but you were not part of Gray State itself. And then that's where Danny, and this is what I see, and I see that's where Danny was having a problem going, well, wait a second. He felt he was entitled to all of it. But in reality, as a writer, he wasn't. Not at all.
Is it possible that Danny Mason could have just filled out a guild? Maybe there's a guild plaque sitting on his wall somewhere.
Well, with the Writers Guild of America, they're really picky. They watch this stuff very closely. They have to.
I don't know about that.
What have you seen? I mean, they have to be careful. It's like
they want your money, pretty much.
Well, absolutely. Yes, they do. They absolutely do want money. However, they can't have giving out documentations of registration to duplicate titles of the same project to different people.
Good point. Or can they? Or
no, I don't, yeah, or would they? Maybe would they?
I think we or would they? I think we can find that out too. I mean, we can both fill out something and just put in the same script, pay a couple $100, and I don't know.
Yeah, I know I've never really become that part of the Writers Guild. I wanted to at one point right after I was published, but then I just stopped writing for a long time, so I never bothered.
Is there anywhere that we can find a copyright? I mean, would David's copyright on the script or anything be public knowledge where we could search for it and find out what type of copyright? Maybe the copyright is different than the Writers Guild.
You would contact the Library of Congress.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure he would have registered it under copyright. And if he did not, that still doesn't mean that anybody else can lay claim to it. Because
what if somebody else registered it?
Well,
I mean, if it's registered, let's say it's registered under Hothead, or it's registered under David Crowley LLC or whatever, Gray State LLC, which is what Danny Mason was trying to create, right? After David died, 4 months after David died, Danny Mason's trying to get this whole Gray State LLC up and running. I mean, you see a lot of strange things that even the rookie cops should have been looking more into Danny Mason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had the most to what he felt lose. Although in reality it wasn't his, but I feel he was under the impression it was his.
Well, he was the lead actor. He was the lead actor. His face, it wasn't David's face, it was his face. He was everywhere. He was the guy, the guy jumping around and killing all these people and chopping people off and just stalking people, right? That was all him. This was all supposed to be his story as the actor, and so from an actor's point, I'm sure he fell in love with this project and with his character.
Right, and I think David would made it very plain that he was going to get the part if that's what he wanted.
Not true. Right, but there was no way he was ever going to get that. So David was lying to him. If he told him that was true, there's no way he was ever going to get that. I'm just guessing, but just from my view, absolutely not. No company is going to risk it on him. No way. They were looking at top
big
talent.
names.
They were looking at big names. They're not going to sacrifice those big names for Danny Mason. I'm sorry.
Okay, you make a really good point because, I know some people have made the statement that it was only $30 million, but when you look at movies made for $30 million and less in Hollywood, there's some big name movies out there. So $30 million was no joke.
No.
That was they were serious about this movie.
Yeah.
So that's a good point, Greg. So Danny was looking to lose.
I did something right. It took me 2 hours.
Wait, let me stroke the ego. You did great. I'm sorry.
Let me mark this down. Timestamp this. I'm gonna do a whole show on this. When I got this one thing right, and why you should trust me.
It wasn't one thing.
I was just messing around.
Well, you don't think that maybe on the 19th when they went into the house, that they weren't looking for some of these documents that might have been left?
I think that's good.
That they could get their hands on?
Yep, that's a strong possibility.
They were looking. They were
for some reason.
Yeah, they were looking for something. Even Mason Hendricks will say that they were looking for anything. He'll say they were looking for anything that would lead them to understand why David Crowley was guilty, and he says that they didn't find it. So whatever they were looking for, according to him, they did not find. They shouldn't have been in that house, period.
That's right. That's right.
Why
and
wasn't
that still
anybody
bothers
else?
Me.
Yeah, that whole 911 call thing is very strange. It's in the middle of the day, too. It's not like they were trying to be secretive or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have waited till night. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. During broad daylight, 2 days after there's a murder there, you got to be pretty desperate.
Yeah, and people who say they knew him, they say they knew him, and there are 0 calls between David and them, 0, and then they're going to go and let themselves into his home. How did they get in? That's what I want to know, because if Dan Sr. wasn't there with them, how did they get in? They didn't have a house key.
Maybe through the rear slider.
Right? I was hoping you'd say that so I can go, you're right, Greg.
The rear slider was open slightly.
Now you have 2 things. You have to timestamp this one, too.
I'm on a roll here.
You are.
I'm on a roll.
But I just don't understand them going in there that soon.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not normal.
Even before it was cleaned up.
I mean,
okay, I'm going to go get more coffee, so I won't be hearing the conversation. Maybe Sophia and Dan can jump in.
So I'm gonna talk about
and you can be
behind your back. All right.
There you go. Yes, you have to remember.
Yes, that's right.
And then put it out in public.
Yes, exactly. I think Donna asked one question. She asked, "Why did police give Eric Nelson 1,300 pictures of the crime scene, hundreds of hours of video, and all of the computers? How come he got this?" I think that's a very good question. Why Eric Nelson was given so much stuff so early. Eric Nelson probably was given more stuff than we were, and still couldn't prove David Crowley guilty. So what does that tell you? You know, we were speculating on a lot of different things way back before we even had a lot of these documents, and it all turned out to be true. Very interesting stuff. The Minnesota member says forwarding a number is similar to IP masking, where you can hide where the original number comes from by masking it with another. Interesting.
Okay.
What happened to the coffee and bananas theory?
Yeah, I was going to ask that earlier.
I think we have 2 right now. So I think the last one that Vicky did from the group, I think that one kind of showed kind of the range. So we're kind of getting that range where, you know what, the bananas could have been there for 4 weeks. Now the coffee test.
Yeah, but I've had bananas to go dark on me in less time than that. As a matter of fact, I had bought 2 of them from the store, and they sat here for a week, and I had to throw them away because they had turned black. So
yeah, and that usually happens with organic bananas, right? The more organic it is, the less.
Right.
Right. Now,
organic ones will rot quicker.
Right. Correct. Now it's possible. I don't know for sure, but some of the charges from the financial statements from David Crowley, some of those charges are to Walmart, to a local Walmart. It's possible maybe they got them there, which probably is not the best quality. So again, it's like not only do we have to do, we're going to have to do this test several times. This isn't like we just have one person do these tests. No, we need about 20, 30 people to do these tests in different times, different climates, different everything.
Different stores.
Exactly. different stores. Absolutely. Because I do believe, that will help us, but at least it kind of helps me see, you know what, okay, it is possible that those bananas were there for 3 weeks, for 4 weeks, possibly. I'm totally open to that. I think this shows that I need to keep an open mind towards that.
Well, as far as the bananas go, and I think it's great because everyone who has a different temperature in their house, we're coming up with different time frames. Mm-hmm. I keep my house cooler, so it took roughly, I think, 14 to 17 days before they turned. But I keep my house at 62, and their house was at 68. Now, other people who keep their houses warmer, they turned faster. And then someone else's house who they didn't have a temperature-controlled home, and so it even took a little bit longer. So it was actually pretty interesting to see how that all works.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got a vent, like in the ceiling, now some people have them in the floors, but usually they're in the ceiling. But if it's blowing down into that corner onto those bananas,
they would turn faster even.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually a kitchen is warmer than any other room of the house.
Yeah. And we know that the ambient temperature had to be at least 68, even though the back door was cracked, because when the police got there, the heater was on and running. So it could have been running constantly to keep that temperature up.
Right.
Yeah, it should have been.
Which you make a great point, because if it's running constantly, then there's a lot of heat hitting those bananas. I'll have to look to see where their heater is. Good point.
Yeah, see if there's like a vent in the kitchen area somewhere or something. Why wouldn't it be running constantly, Dan? Would that be because once it hits that certain temperature, it turns itself off? Okay, so at 68 is normal, but it's going to maintain 68, meaning if it drops or if it goes, higher, it's going to maintain. Yeah. So it should always be a constant 68, right?
Yeah, and the reason why I said maybe it would be running constantly, don't know, because the back door was ajar. It was wintertime. Even though they had curtains, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
We don't really know. But all we know is that the temperature, the thermostat was set to hold at 68, and it was on when the police got there. So we know the temperature was roughly at least 68 in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, how does that factor in with a open door when it's maybe not snowing, because it wasn't snowing for, Dan says slider ajar could make the furnace kick in more frequently. Okay. Very
so basically it's going to remain 68, correct, Dan? Why isn't he talking?
Yeah. But is it also going to
Hello, yes, I'm here.
There you are.
Are we going to see signs of snow inside the house, things like that? Because it looks like there's a lot of that dust. Is that dust inside the house, especially on the laptop in the kitchen? Or is that more related to snow because of the air? I've had a hard time with that. There's a lot of dust, a lot of white dust.
The dust I think we saw in the basement, I think it was where whatever the items were removed from the computer desk, that you can tell where the dust was versus where the dust wasn't.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in the kitchen, on the kitchen laptop. If you look at it,
I didn't see any dust. There may have been a small layer of dust. It would not be snow.
It would not be snow. It'd just be
Yeah, it would have melted.
Snow would not get in the house.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, maybe not snow, but like condensation that kind of froze a little bit or something. I don't know.
No. So most people here in Minnesota, you just keep the thermostat typically during the day at 68 degrees. And that's not hot and that's not cold. That's just what people usually have it. They may have it turned down. No. maybe for other.
Wait, what is 68? No, I'm freezing.
That is so hot.
Well, that's because you're in Colorado.
In different regions of the U.S. In Minnesota, that's perfectly right because most people's
like
tropical keep it at 70, half keep them at 68. But the general house is at 68. Some keep it at 66, and some keep it at 70. Some are at 72. Minnesota homes are very different.
According to how old you are.
Oh, yeah. How old you are. Yeah.
When my feet get cold, I say cold.
But Minnesota very, very different. So that's just what it's done like here. That's why it's. I pointed out right away that it was just normal when I saw that locked in at 68 because I could have taken a picture of my thermostat that very same day and it would have been locked in at 68. But they may have a program where it turns down to 60 or something or 62 maybe at night. But this was 68 during the day. So that's normal. The door slider being slightly ajar. If it was wide open, it would have been really cold or snow would have gotten in there perhaps. But this is a quarter of an inch. I don't think it would have had any interest or any bearing on that at all. And it may have had the heater kick in more frequently because the door was slightly ajar. But I don't think there was really nothing odd or strange about that. But that's it. That was just a normal setting, I think.
Yeah, and so basically what you're saying is it is a frozen 68.
I thought it was like a tropical 68.
Well, the difference is, and I think, Catherine, you're getting to the point, is when people around the nation saw this photograph of the thermostat set at 68, it brought a lot of different reactions from people saying, wow, the bodies could have decomposed faster because it was so dang hot, or the bodies were probably closed and someone kept it so cold. I kept hearing all these wide variety of things with the 68, and just wanted to point out the 68. That's most, as far as I know, unless people can write in here. Here in Minnesota, people keep it in the wintertime. January would have been certainly 68 degrees. I think it's just a normal setting. That's what this office settings are set for in businesses and things like that here in the Twin Cities as well. Everything's just set to 68.
Yeah, and every coroner or medical examiner I spoke with said that the 68 would not cause the bodies to decompose faster or slower. They basically said the same thing, is that's pretty much a normal temperature that most people keep their homes at. For me, no way. I couldn't breathe. It's too hot. It's like, no.
And you're in where? Colorado?
Yeah, Colorado. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's so funny. We used to get, I'm telling you, when it gets 37 degrees here in the wintertime, we're like, woo, we have a heat wave. So you put those short sleeve shirts on and you go outside, but yeah, 68 is so hot.
I did see this morning on the way to work, I did see a convertible this morning, and it was 47 degrees. I did see a convertible with the top down in Minnesota.
Yeah. You gotta be kidding me.
Not a lie.
See, they're probably from here because we have our convertible tops down here too.
You're probably on drugs or something.
No, I don't do drugs. I don't do drugs.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying the guy that Dan saw. Is it Charlie?
He was on absinthe, I think.
He was on absinthe. Absolutely.
It's so funny because my best friend, she has a convertible and I have a convertible, so when we meet out and it's like nighttime and it's 32 degrees outside, and she's like, let's go drive around town with our tops down, and we're like, okay, so we put our tops down, we go drive around town, and that's just what we do here.
Wow.
So 68 is like hot. That's tropical.
I can't get over that. I'll never get over that one.
You sound like my sister. She's from California too. So
exactly.
funny.
Exactly. Yeah, we're very spoiled here. We get everything.
Yeah. Okay, we got off the case. Sorry about that. That was my fault.
Well, the weather.
Oh.
You know,
but wait,
the coffee. Yeah.
I have to put this out here in public. So now I have to publicly state that you can mark it down for 3 times. Date. You have to timestamp this one.
I know.
I did. You did give it to me, the phone logs from the previous numbers. I went to save it on my system, and it was already there. So you are correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's the big 740-page one. Yeah.
I was wrong. You were right. It was here.
Sweet. Man. 3 for 3. This is a historic night. History-making night.
You guys are characters.
I know. You can tell it's been a long day for all of us. But
I've been drinking tonight.
Just some bread. Just a little bread.
I know. Does anybody else out there have any questions? Because we will just keep yakking our jaws.
Yeah, we will.
Why y'all talking all this crazy?
Speaking of these rear slider, a door ajar, do you realize the officer that made that claim was Mr. John Broughton from Apple Valley Police?
Okay.
He's the one that recently retired, I think a few months into the new year, or maybe it was 2016, retired. So Broughton was the one who brought that whole rear slider, and that, I don't know if it was meant to be brought up or not. After the events unfolded, someone on policeradio.com uploaded the link, went to the dispatch and got the transcript that says the slider was ajar. So then that became public information. That's what really spun this story. It really got out of control once they found that, because everyone flocked to this story when they found out that the rear slider was ajar. So he retires. I contact him to do either an interview or a talk, and he was interested, sounded interested in doing that. And this is just this last winter. He goes, yeah, I'm interested in talking. Let me run it by my superiors first, and I'll call you back. And I thought that was odd. You're retired. You don't have any superiors now. You don't work anywhere.
Wow.
And who would be your boss, and who would be your, supervisor that you'd have to get this okayed through? So I waited. Nothing happened, and it was probably 2 weeks later. I called him back and says, have you heard anything back? Are you interested in doing a talk? He says, you know what? I'd rather not do go forward talking with you about this case. I talked to my sergeant and said it wouldn't really. I really don't have anything to add because I wasn't that involved in the case.
Wow. Could that have hurt his retirement?
I don't think so, and I wouldn't think so. But it sounds to me like he talked to, I don't know, I'm not sure if it was Gummert or who he talked to directly. It was probably Sergeant Gummert. But the question is this: if you look on page 1 of the 94-page police report, he's listed as a supervising officer, or the lead officer in this entire Crowley case was John Broughton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you're the one who stumbles upon the crime scene and one of the first people on the site and was taking photographs and was heavily involved in this Crowley case, it's odd to me that he says, I really wouldn't have much to add. I didn't partake too much. I wasn't that involved in that particular case.
Well,
you certainly were.
He was, but only up until they clear the house. At that point, right? I mean, what was his title? He's just an officer.
A detective. So yeah, he was not a detective.
So at that point, once the detectives take over, he's pretty much out of the scene, and he doesn't really have more to say.
What I'm getting at is you were one of the very first people on the scene.
Yes.
That first 5 minutes, I think, would have been a great interview to see what it was like, what that smell was like, what was it like with the dog barking, what was it like with the door being ajar, what was it like seeing 3 people dead inside of a house. Not the investigation itself, but I think Officer Broughton would have had some very valuable information.
You're right.
Just for a simple interview, not pointing any fingers,
Mm-hmm.
Not getting anyone in trouble, but he was one of the very first people on the scene. I think it would have been tremendous help to hear his input, but whoever he talked to obviously steered him away from speaking to me further about it, which I also find odd.
Who would have been his sergeant? Do you know?
Gummert was a sergeant. Well, that's what he talked to, I think. Sergeant Gummert was the detectives manager, the leader of the detective group, which was...
Yeah, he was like the investigator, but you're right. On here, it calls Broughton the primary. So he's the top of the food chain when it came to this case.
Exactly.
So who else would be on top of him would be the chief, correct?
I believe so. I'm not sure. I just thought it was strange, the whole...
I agree.
He talked to someone. He wanted to get some approval, but he was willing to meet for a coffee or at a coffee shop or something and discuss the case, which I found very encouraging. But 3 weeks later, the tone had very much changed, and now he's out altogether.
That's
he didn't want me to contact him again.
Oh, wow. That's really too bad.
Now, then again, I think it's his son also on the force.
Gummert's son, or Broughton's son?
Yeah.
Broughton's son is now on the...
He had been for a while. I think an intern or a junior person or something, but I think he's on the staff now for a couple of years. He's a younger guy, so that's probably why he didn't want to say anything either. But this was just a simple interview, nothing controversial. I just wanted to get his thoughts on being at a crime scene that large, that big for such a small town.
Yeah, because that's huge.
Yeah.
All right, I got to jump off, guys.
Okay.
Good luck with the remaining part of the interview, and glad I could help. And so far, I found this very interesting.
Thanks for coming back, Dan.
I see you guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
I want to talk a little bit about Jim Gummert. We reached out to Jim Gummert a few times. I know, Catherine, you had reached out to him, and I reached out to him, and we had two very different responses. Let's start with yours, Catherine, if that's okay.
Yeah, it was to be expected from my point of view. I'm so used to, as a woman, I am used to being shunned and put down and pushed aside. It's just what happens to us women in the business field, and I never take it personal just because it happens far too often. But the fact that he would not even discuss me, I mean, he was just very short, I'm not going to talk to you. My answer is no, and I'm not going to tell you why it's no, but it's no. And yeah, he was not, I mean, he was nice. He was not rude. At least I give him that. He was not, so many people are rude, but he was not rude, but he would not discuss anything with me.
Was he sincere? Maybe that's a relative term. Maybe that means something different to us.
Yeah, to me, it was just a typical interchange between a person in a position of power and just a little lowly civilian. I've been through this hundreds and hundreds of times. Mm-hmm. So it was just like, what do you call it? Like on the chain of command, I would be the fodder. So, and they know that, so let's not just waste our time. But I'm going to do it in a professional manner. So it was quite disappointing, that's how it was. And I really wish he would have talked more and opened up. I felt like he wanted to, but he couldn't. Like maybe if they're told not to talk about a case, they can't talk about a case. But that doesn't mean they don't want to talk about a case. And he just wasn't going to go against what his superior had told him. Well, I guess which is good. Not good for us, but good for him.
Yeah.
But the case was closed at that time, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And even though I sent him and everybody multiple documents, lots of proof of how and why David could not be considered guilty and not be the perpetrator, using their own documentation, they just closed off immediately. Just they didn't want to hear it. They're not going to look at it. We don't want to talk to you.
Well, don't put nothing past these police departments, I guarantee you.
Mm-hmm.
And Catherine, you you had a long talk with Gummert. You had a recorded talk that people can actually go and listen to.
Yeah.
Right? Can go and check out and really see for themselves. It's one of the rare opportunities that we have to not only get some transcript, but to, where you can actually hear what they're saying.
Hear his words, and that's, here in Colorado, in a lot of states it's not legal, but here in Colorado, as long as one person in the conversation knows that the recording is going on, it is legal to record that conversation. And you can even do it with police, which is the only reason why I did it, because like you were talking before about the backlash, and with everything I'd put up with from people who were dragging me through the mud and everything I was saying through the mud, I knew that was going to happen with Gummert as well. So this way, when they hear it directly from him, they can't come back and say I had made anything up. And Gummert never asked if I was recording. He never said he didn't want to be recorded. I mean, if he had said don't record me, I would have had to turn it off. But, he never asked me if I was and never said to turn it off. So it is completely a legal recorded conversation. And I really think people should listen to that so they hear for themselves just how shut off they don't care. I basically said, hey, you have the proof in front of you. Is it going to make a difference? And nope, nothing makes a difference. Nope, nothing's going to change our mind. So that is wrong. Because by law, because by law, when they get new information like that, they are to investigate it again, but they aren't even going to look at it. So they are breaking the law. The Apple Valley Police Department is breaking the law, not investigating and looking at the information I sent them.
Like I said, don't put anything past these police departments, because we're having some cases down here of some people being murdered and disappearing, and
really,
the laws have covered up a lot of it, and they're not investigating it like they should have. As a matter of fact, one case was an elderly man had went home and disappeared out of his workshop, and there was blood on the floor, and he just disappeared from there, and the dogs followed his scent out to the end of the driveway, and he disappeared.
Wow.
And, so he was put in a vehicle. I mean, you're like, okay, he was taken away by a vehicle.
They figured he was wrapped in a tarp and loaded into the back of a truck. But that's been 2 years now, and this police department where I was raised at, I know them, and they didn't follow through with a lot of stuff that they should have, and besides that, they believed his wife was messing with the chief of police.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, great.
That sounds like what happened. That's
but I'm
similar
telling
to
you,
yeah, I've seen that before.
Don't put anything past these police departments. I mean,
that wasn't in California, was it?
No, this was in Texas.
Okay. This is very similar.
Oh,
very
don't
similar.
even get me started on the police in California.
I think they're that bad everywhere.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, especially in smaller towns, it seems like.
Yeah, and in my experience, there are more bad cops than good cops. There are still good cops out there. I know several that are really decent humans, but then the rest of them, I'm just like going, how are you even a police officer? Yeah.
They use that authority.
Yep.
Goes to their head.
This reminds me, Nothing's Gonna Change My World, all across the universe by the Beatles, pretty much. Nothing's going to change Gummert's mind. Nothing's going to change their world. The same thing.
And so what was your experience with him, Greg?
So I reached out to him. I wanted to know about the dog feces test. I reached out to him on April 11, 2019 at 1:01 p.m. And I wanted to know if they had done any dog feces tests. And I got an auto response. And I'm going to pull that up here. April 11th. Where are you? April 11th. Must be really far. I still haven't categorized a lot of this stuff yet. April 11th.
Well, in my opinion, some of that dog poop that was in the house looked like it had hair and bone mixed with it because it was stringy at the end, pointed. And I've noticed my dog's poop, and when they eat stuff like that, it tends to.
Yeah, there's one spot of it. Yeah, I can't tell if it's actually vomit or dog poop. But, I've always felt like the dog probably did eat something, but there's no way that they can convince me the dog ate all the parts that are missing.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. It would be a normal reaction for the dog to go up there and smell and lick them to try to wake them up and then, eat something. And then all the vets have stated that it makes their stomachs upset and they will throw it up. And so since there was really only, from what I could see, one spot that really looked didn't look like regular dog poo. So he did something and he got sick and he threw up, but there's not a lot of that on the floor. And when the police reports state that, there was dog feces everywhere, they forgot that they sent photos of almost the entire house. You can see almost the entire layout of the house, and there is not dog feces everywhere. I counted it. I counted each little individual poo. I counted 29.
You counted every poo.
I did. 29.
Poo counter.
And my little dog, that I just got, he does 3 poos at a time.
Wow.
So it's like, and he's just this little teeny tiny 4-pound dog. So it's like they.
Some dogs may poop once a day, and some dogs may poop 3 times a day.
Right, and that's what I asked them. I try to get somebody to say, hey, if you know about this dog, what was its habits? Not to be gross, but you need to know. And nobody would answer the question.
And too, it had to do with what he was eating.
Yes.
Right, and there's I do believe. Yeah, that's a good question about what he was eating and what he was pooping after.
Right.
Days later. I think that's very important to know. And I do believe some people out there know that answer, and I wish they'd help us understand this.
I agree.
Well, but I get it.
That dog had some good evidence if they would have tested it.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It certainly does.
I'm sure they could have even told how old it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what's so great about those photos, because we have it. We have the timeline of those poops in there. It's all there. We just need somebody like the phone record, somebody to go through it and really understand it, to really see, because you're seeing, at least I'm seeing, I'm sure everybody else is too. There's a lot of different types of poop, a lot of different shapes, a lot of different colors. There's dust. Some of them look like they've turned into dust. Can that happen in 3 weeks? Can that happen in 1 week? Can that, you know what I mean? All this stuff. Can you tell what they were eating by the poop?
Well, when they eat bone,
what does it look like?
Pretty quickly.
Does it turn? Would it turn to powder quickly? Interesting.
Yeah.
Because there are some. I do see some of that there.
Yeah, I saw that too. Just like I said, it's according to what he ate.
Right.
And bone is dry.
And bones are so hard. I mean, you think about the time that you give your animals like a cow bone or something like that to chew on, or a steak bone, and how long does it take them to actually eat that? The human bones are hard too. And people, I don't know why people tend to think we are these little fragile beings. Our bodies are strong. Those bones are strong. The skull is ridiculously hard to break.
Would that be different depending on how well you take care of yourself? I mean,
well,
how well you're maintained.
Yes, yes, that's true. I mean, older.
You have to be 75 years old, I guarantee.
So we're talking about a 5-year-old. We're talking
her
about
bones are more chewable.
Yeah. Well, there's a 5-year-old child here. Would they be softer? Meaning, could the dog pull?
Well, the bones are still hard. The bone, no. There's no way that dog pulled that arm out of the socket. No
way.
Not pull it out. or ate it. All right, because we're talking about a whole arm here. What is the average length of an arm? What would you say of a 5-year-old child? Because that's what we're talking about here. You can see the other arm, so we know exactly what they're
about
saying.
2 foot.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's roughly 2 feet. Yeah. And that's a lot of bone. You have a humerus, you have an ulna, you have a radius. You have 3 big major bones, not to mention all of the bones in the hand.
Right.
And that is a lot.
So what do they do to help prove that the dog actually ate just that one arm?
They've done nothing to prove it. All they do is go by what the coroner states in the report, saying that there was dogs scavenging on the bodies, which we see no evidence of. They never gave any evidence of that at all. And then the police saying that, the dog ate them. I'm like, where's that proof? I don't see it. I mean, there's just no way this dog did it. It's impossible.
That's the way they wanted to believe it.
Yes. Because when I talked to the coroner here, and I mean, he was very helpful, and some people get so snotty, and I don't even want to give them credence, because sometimes pardon the term, Samantha, plug your ears, please. Granddaughter's over here. Plug your ears. Sometimes I don't want her to hear me say this word. I want to bitch slap them, because it's like they're so stupid. When I went to the coroner or the medical examiner here, all I had with me was a few documents of the crime scene, but I had the autopsy reports. So the doctor only read the autopsy reports. So of course he agreed with it. Why wouldn't he? He's reading a report, and he's like going, okay. And he would say, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. And anyway, he was like, saying, here, let me show you a photo of a body that was eaten by a dog, a puppy or whatever. It's supposedly done in 16 hours, and I'm not buying that crap either. But I look at this body, and it's so funny because I felt like he was trying to, gross me out by the photo, but it's like, really, this is nothing. I've seen worse. So I'm looking at this body, and he goes, and this is what was done by a puppy in 16 hours. And I'm like going, but the head is still there. And I guess he didn't like my tone, but it's like, it's true. I'm like, but the head is still intact. That dog could not eat that skull. So why would this dog, who's roughly the same size as the dog you're telling me ate this body, then consume 2 adult skulls, but not a child skull?
And hands and
yes.
Arm and all that other stuff.
And then he didn't really have anything to say. But,
Could it be... let me put it like this. Are there drugs that will weaken human bones?
Yes.
What type of drug? What type of drug would weaken human bones?
I don't know the name of them offhand, but there are drugs there are medications that will sap the calcium from the bones, which then makes them softer and easier. But David and Mel were not, you have to be on these medications for a long time. They're heavy duty. And they were very healthy. They ate healthy. They exercised. So their bones were probably extremely strong.
We just had a comment. We just had a comment in the
prednisone.
Prednisone. What is that?
That's a steroid.
Right, and I've taken plenty of that.
Yeah, I've taken prednisone too. Yeah.
So what does that do? What does it do to your bones?
It probably takes the calcium.
How quickly?
Yeah.
How quickly?
You have to be on it a long time. It's not like you could take... Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm not on it constantly, but there's a couple of times, maybe 3 times a year, that my COPD gets worse because I got asthma with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
which I think David had.
I have to. Oh, he had to?
I'm just guessing, Hunter. I'm just guessing.
Oh. Yeah, because of all the stuff he had there.
Yes.
Okay, but I have to take a round of steroids and a round of antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
Now, prednisone is an antibiotic.
It's a steroid.
Yeah, but it's an antibiotic. My daughter's been on it for 3 years now.
Oh, that's not good.
No, it's not good. She's got pretty bad arthritis, and the doctor put her on that. and that's about the only thing that keeps her from hurting so bad. But yeah, it will destroy your body.
Yes, it does. I mean, that's what I'm saying. 3 years is not. See, Greg, that's what I'm talking about. That's extended use. Someone like her daughter would be at risk for having soft bones. They would have to really keep an eye on her. But David and Kamel were not.
Right.
I mean, you look at them.
Like that.
Yes.
Could that come in a liquid form that could do the same thing at a shorter amount of time?
Not that I know of. Most prednisone is always dispensed in tablet form. Or injected, or like in
that's what I'm talking about.
In a nebulizer, correct? For somebody, you have asthma. Now, do you ever get prednisone in a nebulizer?
No.
Okay, I was just wondering.
I know you can.
Yeah. Okay. See. Yeah. There we go.
Because they give it to you in a nebulizer, and then give you a shot, and then they take you home with a pack.
Yes. Which there might be a nebulizer in the house.
So, I mean, but that's for people with severe asthma.
Right.
There are a lot of people who have asthma, and it's only seasonal. It may act up in the springtime or in the fall or anything like that, but the rest of the time they're fine. So with the amount of activity and with this healthy and the amount of exercise both David and Kamel did, that would help keep his asthma under control. Now, if he had it, I don't even know if he had it, but not it wouldn't cure it. But it would really, being healthier makes it easier to deal with the asthma. But, yeah.
And I just wonder if that, I guess with that, I just wonder if that would be someone that was as health conscious as they were, if they would even,
yes. And that's the point, too, is, Kamel was very health conscious. And prednisone is like really like one of those things you don't want to take. So I can't imagine her even wanting her family to take something like prednisone.
Only if they really had to, right? I mean, at a certain point, it's like, okay.
Right.
It's a lifesaver in a lot of instances, let me tell you.
Yes.
Interesting.
But it is something that you don't want to continuously take.
Interesting. Well, sorry to get off on all that.
Yeah. Well, because we were talking about the bones, and could they have been on medication that softened their bones? And I don't think so. And even if they could, that is still a tremendous amount of bone material for a dog to consume.
No way.
Yeah. It would still be stuck in the gut. The dog would have been vomiting it up, and you don't see vomited bone pieces anywhere.
That's right. This all ties back into Gummert, and when I contacted Gummert on April 11, 2019, he responded back in 3 minutes. So I contacted him on April 11, 2019 at 1:01 p.m. He responded at 1:04 p.m., and this was an automatic reply. I'm out of the office until further notice. Please call 952-953-2700 and ask for an investigator if you have a general question. Thank you. So that's what I got. So.
Yeah, and I find that interesting. Where is Gummert?
Well, I picked up the phone and I called that number right there.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to those notes that I have. So I'm going to make sure I get this right. I can't believe I didn't put this in my files. I'm going through emails. This is crazy. Okay. Let's see.
Where's Sophia?
She had some issue with her phone.
Oh, darn. Okay.
Where is it? I'm trying to find the notes that I have that I sent you. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, I found it. Sorry. I hate dead air.
I was in my own little world. I forgot there was dead air.
I think we needed that little break there. But then I picked up the phone and I called that person. And what I did is I called that number. That number is the main line. And I asked for Jim Gummert, and they said that Jim Gummert was out on medical leave, and they didn't know for how long. So they didn't say that. But I was kind of worried about him being out on medical leave, so they transferred me to the captain who is in charge of that, Captain Nick Francis, who is handling all of Gummert's cases now. So I left him a voicemail, and then I haven't followed up on it. So I need to follow up on that. And
but he obviously hasn't contacted you either then, correct?
He didn't leave a voice message. It is possible that, because I get a lot of calls from different areas, it is possible that he might have called me. I can't say for sure. But I think, I'm going to call him again, and then hopefully I'll be able to talk with him, because this should be a yes or no answer.
Yes.
This is just, did you guys do the tests on the dog feces, or did you not? And so that's what I hope to get the answer from him. Now, what's great is that he wasn't there. This Captain Nick Francis was not there. And there was another captain who was there during this time, so I'm wondering if maybe he has moved on to other places too. But Captain Nick Francis is really the one who's in charge of all of Gummert's cases now. So I'm hoping to get in touch with him, and maybe he can just go look through those files, and maybe he can help get us some of these other files. So if there's any other questions out there too, that we might have another opportunity to ask Apple Valley some questions, because there were many questions that I felt like, with the 21 questions that we asked Gummert, there were many that I felt that I just didn't even know what questions to really ask.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Right. And, because as we get we've gotten further in, and you have more information now, you have more knowledge, so it'd be easier to write a good question. But and well, I just hope, if Gummert is listening, I really hope he's okay. I mean, that's scary to be out on medical leave. Nobody wants that.
Well, I guess that could mean so many different things too, right? Like, what is medical leave? So I don't know. Yeah, but I would just hope everybody could pray for him and keep him happy, keep him healthy, and help us get some closure to this case.
Yep, I agree. Well, I think I
agree too.
Cool.
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah. Are you there? Go for it.
Who's there?
Oh.
I thought there was somebody. Somebody had to say something.
I don't know, but it's past bedtime for me.
Okay.
It's 11.
Well, let's wrap it up. I mean, we said 3 hours. We went 3 hours, so there's nothing else until we meet again.
Yep, I think this was great. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining.
Oh yeah, anytime, and all the time. Good night.
And all the time. That's right. We got a lot more to go. It's just the beginning here, but yeah.
Okay, I'm with y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night, Greg.
You too.
Okay, bye.
God bless you all.